Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm being honest. I don't want to be one of these toes on television.
Hey.
Oh, I mean jackasses. I meant. I'm sorry. I apologize.
What the heck is going on?
I meant jackasses. I apologize. These guys act like they know everything. Ernie, I got
First, Shaq.
That's the first time I've ever cursed. I apologize. Yeah. It is. I apologize.
Chuck, I'll tell you what, I will pay your fine to the FCC.
I do. I apologize.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, welcome into a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Beards heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about and break down with a big weekend of NFL football. More of an explanation of what's going to happen after this weekend of football, and still also clear as mud with what can happen after this weekend. So we have a better understanding, and still very convoluted.
We have a better understanding of a convoluted version of what might happen.
That's right.
Might happen.
So we'll talk about every single scenario. Every single one. We will break down in depth, in detail about this is if the Chiefs beat the Raiders and the Bills beat the Patriots and the Bengals beat the Ravens, the number 1 seed is, the number 2 seed is, the number 3 seed is. And if this team beats that team in the first round, and this team beats that team in the first round, the divisional round is. But what if this team loses to that team in the first round, and this team loses to that team in the first round, the divisional round is. And we're just going to go one by one, and when we end, it'll be about 3:30, and sorry, Soren, you're just going to have to get on late today.
I think the Chiefs beat the Bills in Kansas City, beat the Bills at a neutral site, beat the Bengals in Kansas City, lose to the Bengals at a neutral site. So that right there, I mean, I just went through it all. This is ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say different teams and locations for each of those? I think I did. But if the Chiefs have to go to Jacksonville, I mean, I just don't know that they can make that happen.
That's going to be weird. That's going to be a very odd scenario. And I thought it was weird that they just said, you know what, every game from here on out is just going to be a coin flip.
Yeah.
And we'll decide a championship. It's like the coin flip bracket. Does anybody do a coin flip bracket in the NCAA tournament? Just for S's and G's?
I usually I do like a dog mascot one. Maybe the NFL could do that. Yeah.
Higher seed is the home. The home team is is heads, or the higher seed, I should say, is heads. Higher is in 1, 2, 3, 4. Is heads, the lower one tails, and you just flip a coin the whole time and see who you get a champion. I believe there's probably a coin flip bracket that has won a bracket one day. There's a dog mascot bracket I know for a fact that has won a bracket contest, because I was in that bracket contest, and one of the guys is a big lover of dogs and picked all dog mascots, and it was Yukon Butler in the championship.
Incredible.
And he won the whole thing. So good for him. That tells us nothing about what's going on in the NFL. 913-912-4810. Jam-packed show today. We'll hear from Lee Sterling coming up later on this hour. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, will join us at 11 o'clock for the hour. And then Kendall Gammon in studio today at noon. Mick Shaffer hanging out with us. We got what's on tap. We got the cuts. No Chiefs today because of a game tomorrow. So no practice going on today for the Chiefs. They are getting ready. They are flying to Vegas on a Friday. Boy, I mean, that flight's got to be packed. Vegas flight on a Friday is always a packed one, and then coming back on a Monday morning is always an interesting one to Vegas. But they are heading out to Vegas today to take on the Raiders tomorrow at 3:30, so we'll talk a lot about that game and different things coming up for this weekend. We'll talk some college basketball as well, with a big weekend of conference play coming up. Mizzou tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning against Vandy, and then KU, West Virginia, K-State, and surprising 0-2 Baylor. And heading down to Waco with what was a really fun TCU Baylor game. And boy, everything is coming up roses right now for TCU. They are just a couple. You know what? A difference in coaching. Couple of coaching hires for TCU. You get Jamie Dixon to return to his alma mater from Pitt. It also helps that Pitt was taking Jamie Dixon for granted and tried to call his bluff. You know, we're tired, and maybe Capel's getting it rolling now. We're just tired of going to the Sweet 16 of the Elite Eight every year. Like, we need somebody to get a national Pitt, and Jamie Dixon is just kind of become stale of finishing in the top 3, top 4 of the Big East every year, and having good teams that never really are under 500 or anything. This just sucks. It's just boring. Yeah, sure, you're going to go to TCU. Okay, sure, I'll call your bluff. Oh, wait, you're going? Wait a minute. And they hire Jamie Dixon, and look what TCU basketball looks like. And Sonny Dykes has done yeoman's work for TCU this year, being picked 7th and now playing for a national championship on Monday. So Horned Frog fans, the 10 of them, have to feel really – and that's just by the alumni, I'm saying. I'm not making fun of their fan base. It's just a very small alumni group. I didn't realize there were only 5,000 students there at TCU until they showed it with Michigan. 5,000 and 50,000.
Yeah, the TCU Michigan student sections, I imagine, have a different energy to them.
Every single student at TCU was there, and it was still dwarfed by a quarter of the students from Michigan. So.
One of them plays in the big house. The other one plays in the frog house. I didn't even know frog houses were a thing.
That's right. It's called the Lily Pad.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
The Pad. Are you playing TCU at the Pad today? Why isn't their arena called the Pad?
I don't know. I can't think of any reason. I can't think of any reasons.
Called the Pad. All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line. So, shall we? Shall we talk playoff clinching scenarios? But real quick update on DeMar Hamlin. We've been trying to do this as the news comes out. This is an awesome,
it's really cool stuff.
Awesome news. His breathing tube has been removed. He's talking with family, and he FaceTimed and addressed the Buffalo Bills today, delivering messages to teammates and things like that. So DeMar Hamlin, the last 48 hours has been nothing but great news. Yep. So now that he's breathing on his own, awake, yesterday communicating via writing, and today communicating actually verbally, and FaceTime, talking with teammates, talking with family. It's just really cool. And it's got to go a long way for those Buffalo Bill players in the locker room getting ready for the Patriots. I don't know, does it have a rocky feel to it when she wakes up in the hospital and looks at him and says, "Win"? It's on. I'm getting chills right now when she woke up and said, "Win." And the spoiler alert, he did.
Okay. Okay.
So don't bet. Hold on. You lost a bet because you bet against Rocky? I just thought this was the time. I thought this was the time he would lose.
Rocky never loses, though. I mean, come on.
He lost to Clubber Lang.
What?
Sorry, spoiler alert. And then he lost his trainer.
What?
To learn jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, the DeMar Hamlin story of, and it sounds like I keep adding in these little details, not to like dull anyone's excitement, but because it's just a long road.
Yes.
But it sounds like it was still a lot of kind of communicating with some written stuff and some gesturing, but that he was able to say to the team, "I love you, boys." I mean, with the breathing tube being out, being able to get that message across. Sean McDermott talked a little bit about telling the team that he said he had a surprise for him that in the morning today, and then was able to FaceTime or Zoom in or whatever, and to be able to address the team when those guys were watching him get CPR basically at the 50 on Monday night. And we're here on Friday where we haven't even had another NFL game kick off yet. There was, I feel like we can all acknowledge this, especially now, there was a real fear that when Chiefs Raiders was going to kick off on Saturday, that it was going to start with a memorial, with a
moment of silence,
and an RIP on the scoreboard. And now the rest of this NFL season, I hope, if the NFL does this right, is going to be about medical personnel, the recovery of DeMar Hamlin, the good that people did through the GoFundMe. It's just almost unimaginable from where we were on Monday night to where we got this morning.
And I wonder. Look, I think, we talked about it yesterday, that the NFL putting out different feelers through reporters of, hey, we're thinking about doing this. All right, what does the public, what's Twitter think? What are people saying? Okay, we're thinking about doing this. Okay. I wonder how much they had this idea of neutral site for the championship game if it was Chiefs and Bills, or Chiefs and Bengals if a very specific thing happens this weekend, like Cincinnati winning, New England winning, and the Chiefs winning, and then Cincinnati beating Buffalo, and then Chiefs, Bengals being neutral site. I wonder if they had this idea a couple of days ago, and it was like, this is probably what we're going to go with, but we'll put out some feelers. But also, maybe we'll wait a little bit to make sure we get more good news on Damar Hamlin. Because would it have been tone deaf or not reading the room if Damar Hamlin would have taken a turn for the worst and it was like, it's not looking good, he needs some real prayers. This is one where people, he's going to need a miracle. And then the NFL says, all right, well, here are the playoff scenarios, guys. It's going to be a neutral site. I do wonder if there was a, you know what, Friday at the latest, no matter what's going on with them. But if we can get some good news along the way, we'll feel better about releasing what the plans are. I don't know if that was part of it, but maybe it was just coincidental, the timing of it, that you get good news, he's communicating, he's writing, everything looks positive. Okay, Thursday night, here's what we're doing. Friday morning special meeting with the owners. They need 24 of 32 owners to approve the neutral site scenarios for the AFC Championship game and seeding and things like that for moving forward after Week 18, which it's expected that it's going to be unanimous, 32 out of 32. Even if it's not, even if Cincinnati or Buffalo object to it, maybe Baltimore objects to it, you got 24 owners that are like, let's go. This is what people came up with. Players Association, Competition Committee, the commissioner. Okay, let's get this thing done. Let's get it behind us, and everybody has an idea of what it looks like. Now, what does it look like? Well, easiest scenario would be just simply Chiefs win. Chiefs beat the Raiders, take care of your business. If they don't beat the Raiders, then I don't care about anybody complaining about what happens, coin flip, this, that, neutral site, wherever you go, 2 seed, 3 seed, 18 seed. I don't care. Beat the Raiders, take care of business, get the number 1 seed. All right? At that point, you're the number 1. You don't have to play Buffalo and Cincinnati in the playoffs. And if Buffalo wins, and then it doesn't matter what Cincinnati or Baltimore does at that point in that game. If Buffalo wins against the Patriots, then the AFC Championship game, if it is Bills and Chiefs, would be played at a yet-to-be-determined neutral site.
Jason, breaking news from friend of the show, Field Yates.
Yes.
With kicker Harrison Butker questionable to play tomorrow against the Raiders, the Chiefs are signing kicker Matthew Wright to their practice squad, per source.
Chiefs worked out Matthew Wright yesterday.
Yep.
And signed him to the practice squad today. Andy Reid said that they'll probably bring in some insurance for Harrison Butker. He was back at practice yesterday, had the spasms on Wednesday, and practiced yesterday. But insurance policy, Matthew Wright.
Hopefully he doesn't pull it right.
I think we'll have to know today if he's a standard elevation from the practice squad, so we should probably get that. Usually that can be done on Saturday, but usually they play on Sundays, so we'll keep an eye on that. But
also, he's not left-footed, Beard, so he couldn't pull it right. He'd have to push it right. Neutral site, Chiefs and Bills, if it gets there. Again, just win against the Raiders. Win.
Start there.
Just win, baby. Al Davis.
Yes. Take Al Davis to heart here. Beat the Raiders, and then here's what happens.
Yep. And at that point, you're not playing the Bengals and the Bills, and you know that the AFC Championship game against the Bills will be at a neutral site. Against anybody else will be at Arrowhead Stadium.
And you get the first-round bye, which was not completely sure as of the conversations being had yesterday.
Do you get a choice? Is it first-round bye or home field advantage?
If the Chiefs beat the Raiders, they get the home field advantage at least to the AFC Championship game regardless, and they get the first-round bye, which is the most important thing.
And if they play anybody but Buffalo, they will play an AFC Championship game at Arrowhead Stadium.
Unless the Bengals, sorry, if they beat the Raiders. Correct. Absolutely, yes.
If they beat the Raiders, it does not matter what else happens. Anybody but the Bills will be played at Arrowhead Stadium.
That's right.
Including Cincinnati, whatever it might be. Whoever it is will be at Arrowhead Stadium if they beat the Raiders, and also if they win in the divisional round. So the most important thing to me, as we talked about yesterday, is you get that bye week. You get the bye week. I don't care where the AFC Championship game is played. If it's played, I know people are worried about Indianapolis. I mean, yeah, some bad things have happened in Indianapolis. It ain't exactly like it's all been perfect at Arrowhead.
This is fair. This is a good point.
I mean, had they played the Patriots in 2018 at a neutral site in Indianapolis, we would be saying, of course they lost the coin flip. It's Indianapolis. It's Lucas Oil Stadium. Nothing good happens there. Oh, offsides, D Ford. Of course, because there's nothing but horrors in Lucas Oil Stadium. They don't win in the postseason there. Why would you want to play that? That was at Arrowhead. Oh, of course it's at Lucas Oil with that second half against the Bengals in the neutral site.
Exactly.
I mean, anywhere but. I mean, it's just like that crazy comeback with Andrew Luck. Now it's Joe Burrow, but same building, different team, different quarterback, but same building, same result. You have a big lead and you end up losing late. Just can't. Those happen at Arrowhead. So I don't care if it's at Indianapolis or, wherever. I don't care from the standpoint of there are bad things that happen in Indy.
Correct.
Because if that was the case, then why would you ever want to play at Arrowhead Stadium after the Chiefs beat the Steelers in 93 until they beat the Colts in 2018? You couldn't win at Arrowhead.
I'm more concerned about the playing surface than the ghosts in the rafters.
Well, yes, and I'm more concerned about are you even in the game?
I'm more concerned about every single element of it than I am the ghosts at Lucas Oil.
And let's not act like the Bills are absolutely going to be playing in the AFC Championship game.
Let's not act like either of these teams are definitely going to be in the AFC Championship game. Who knows?
Yeah, the Chiefs may not be there, but I'm not gonna complain about playing a neutral site AFC Championship game 3 weeks before it even takes place. 4 weeks before it even takes place, because are the Bills going to win the next 3 games? Are they going to beat New England, their first-round opponent, and then what is expected to be the Bengals? Because if they lose to New England, then that AFC Championship game is going to be in Kansas City, whether it's the Bills or not.
Yep.
So the only way, if the Chiefs beat the Raiders, the only way the Chiefs do not host an AFC Championship game if they win in the divisional round is if the Bills win the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
They have to win 3 games in a row. Any loss along the way to the Bills, the Chiefs will have an AFC Championship game at home. And the most important thing is they will have the bye.
Yep.
And they get the lowest seed remaining in the divisional round, whoever it is. And again, it means they will not, in any circumstance, play Cincinnati or Buffalo in the second round if they win. If they lose, then everything's on the table. If they lose and Buffalo wins, they're the 2 seed. And then you're playing the Bengals. So if you lose, you damn sure better be rooting for the Patriots the next day. Also, too bad, your own fault.
Yep.
Take care of business against a team that is out of it, has been out of it. Their quarterback has left the team. They lost last week to the 49ers. They gave it all they could. Josh Jacobs is questionable. Didn't practice the last 2 days. So is he even going to play? I mean, if you've got Jarrett Stidham and no Josh Jacobs, you better win that game. And no Chandler Jones. You better win that game.
Someone just needs to put 3 defenders on Devontae Adams and then win that game.
And Darren Waller. Adams and Waller, and who cares if they play action? You say, cool, hand it off.
Okay. Is Kenyon Drake still there?
No, he's with Baltimore, right?
I think so, yeah.
The
little running back carousel of the...
He's a Raven.
The backup running back carousel is always fun to me. I don't know.
He's a Raven. So there's the simplified, if it is that way, scenario. Win, you're the 1 seed. Now, if you want to talk about...
Amir Abdullah is running back 2 in Vegas, which I legitimately had completely forgotten. I remember they signed Kenyon Drake,
number 34,
quite a bit of money 2 years ago, and all of that. Yeah, Amir Abdullah of Lions fame before that, right?
Yep, and Nebraska, right? Number 34 for the Raiders, Amir Abdullah, right? I don't...
Nebraska confirmed. I don't have his jersey number up, and then I accidentally clicked on the wrong button, and I'm looking at a Hyundai ad, so...
Does he drive a Hyundai?
He runs like he is one.
So he's always running?
And hard to tackle.
Okay.
Not as hard to tackle as Josh Jacobs, though.
Yeah, yes, give me Amir Abdullah over Josh Jacobs.
That was a useful interruption by me. I'm feeling really good about it.
No, you're fine. And I like the useful interruption because I went down a rabbit hole and spent way too much time charting literally every single drop back for Jarrett Stidham.
Oh, wow, Jason. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
And I don't even run a site to where I would just do
You
this.
can't even
and
post this anywhere.
I'm not even at KC Sports Network.
This is just so you can say it out loud.
Maybe I should just email this to like Craig Stout or Matt Lane or Ken
should.
Swanson and say, hey, just tip of the hat.
Yeah.
Just tip of the cap. Here's what I charted. Here's what happened. Here's play action, no play action, first read, got rid of the ball, scrambled. Was there pressure? Who he threw it to? Was it a good throw, bad throw, great catch, great read? Did he create it? Here, you just tip of the cap, and you can break down what Jarrett Stidham did against the 49ers and really what Josh McDaniels did for Jarrett Stidham against the 49ers in creating that game plan, and we shall see. But as a real quick aside, if the Bengals and the Bills both win, aside from let's assume Chiefs beat the Raiders, and nobody's assuming that, but let's assume Chiefs beat the Raiders just for this scenario. Chiefs beat the Raiders, Bills, Bengals both win. The number 2 seed would be Buffalo. The number 3 seed would be Cincinnati because Cincinnati would have one fewer win. Even though they played the same amount of games, they would have one fewer win. When we talk about teams that are really getting the short end of the stick, one of them would be Cincinnati in that scenario. Because if you're the Bengals, you've got a real case of saying, hey, we think we were going to win that game. Now, the NFL says, too bad, that game didn't happen. So it's just like you strike that from the record, jury. You will not take that into account. You will not pay attention to what was just said. There was an objection. Strike it from the record. You have to forget that that took place. Yeah, but I'm a human. I have ears. I have a mind. I remember it. Yeah, but you cannot acknowledge the fact that they just said he did murder this person. What? He murdered somebody else and now he's on. Why can't I take that? Okay, I won't. I promise. I won't take that into account. Sorry. Like, yeah, it's hard to forget. Like, okay, the Bengals started off really well. Does it mean they would have won? Who knows? I think so, but it doesn't matter. I think the Chiefs would have won in the second half if you'd have stopped it at halftime in the AFC Championship game. So if you stopped it in the first quarter, I wouldn't have guessed the Chiefs ever took the lead against the Bengals on the road. And they did, and had the ball, driving at midfield, and we know what happened after that. So it's the NFL. You never know what's going to happen. Chiefs were up 27-0 on the Broncos. I wouldn't have guessed they needed an interception with the Broncos with the ball to take the lead on a touchdown and extra point. Wouldn't have guessed that. So, but if you're the Bengals, you've got a real beef because if you play in the division round against the Bills, there is no neutral site.
Yep.
The NFL is not saying, well, that's a neutral site because you didn't get to play that game, and had you won, that would be a home game. You just got to go to Buffalo. And you had a chance at home to win to make sure that game was then at home. But in no contest, you now have to go to Buffalo if they beat the Patriots, no matter what, whether you win, lose. Also, if you are the Bengals, if you lose to Baltimore, there will be a coin flip on where the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals game will be played in the wild card round, in Baltimore or Cincinnati. That's a scenario that in Kansas City it does not affect the Chiefs. But in Cincinnati and across the NFL, they're definitely talking about that. A coin flip to determine if that game is going to be played in Cincinnati or Baltimore. Mind you, the expectation is that game will be played with Lamar Jackson. I should say if they end up meeting. If Baltimore gets the 6th seed, which just takes the Chargers beating the Broncos. The Chargers beat the Broncos and Baltimore beat Cincinnati. There will then be a coin flip to see if that game is in Baltimore or Cincinnati. This is
pretty simple.
It's wild.
Pretty simple stuff here. What was everyone so confused about?
It is wild, clear as mud. So there you go. I'm a visual person, and luckily I've got a Excel spreadsheet right in front of me of everything there. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from Lee Sterling later on this hour. Matt Derrick, 11 o'clock hour. Kendall Gammon, noon hour. Mick Shaffer. Cuts. What's on tap? All still to come.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Catalogs on?
Brian Doyle Murphy.
Craig Stout.
Murray. Damn it.
That's the famous part of his name is Murray, Jason.
I know.
Why did you make him Murphy?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Nine 912-4810. We'll hear from Lee Sterling coming up next segment. Text says, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but if Buffalo and Cincinnati both lose Week 18 and Kansas City wins, wouldn't that mean if Buffalo or Cincinnati qualify for the title game, it would mean the home game was in Kansas City? That is correct. That is correct.
Yes.
Here's the easiest way to think about it. Chiefs beat the Raiders, get that out of the way. If Buffalo loses any of the next 3 games they play, the Chiefs will host the AFC Championship game. If Buffalo loses any of the next 3 games, you beat the Raiders, the next 3 weeks the Bills have to win their game against the Patriots, against what is either... Probably wouldn't be the Patriots. Well, I guess, is there a scenario where the Patriots get in if they end up losing to the Bills? I think there is. It's a win and you're in, but there's other
if they
things
beat
that
the Bills, they're in. It would be very difficult for them to. I think they can back in a very convoluted way.
Okay, so if the Patriots lose, they would need the Dolphins to lose to the Jets and the Steelers to lose to the Browns and the Jags to win versus the Titans.
Did you see the big AFC East news on that big matchup?
No.
We're getting Skylar Thompson, Joe Flacco, baby.
Heck yeah, baby.
Week 18.
Love it.
Let's get elite with it.
Love it. So, if the Bills beat the Patriots, then they would play one of Patriots, Dolphins, Steelers in that first round. If they beat that team, the expectation is they will then play the Bengals. And if they beat the Bengals at home, then it's a neutral site. So they have to win those three straight weeks. We'll see what ends up happening, and we'll see where the neutral site is going to be. So the easiest way is beat the Raiders, and then the Bills lose any of the next 3 games. The Chiefs will host the AFC Championship game. So it's as simple as I could probably come up with it. So yeah. Text says, Jason's talking extra fast today. I love it. Extra Coca-Cola this morning while reviewing fans' tape. Am I?
I don't feel like you've been talking extra fast.
Is there an extra speed to
what
it?
It might have been.
I don't think I have. I think that's I think most of the talking that I've done is just trying to figure out what the scenario is going to be. And you go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go through all these different scenarios. Coin flip, not coin flip. Neutral site. Is it going to be in Indy? Is it going to be in Vegas? Is it going to be Chiefs, Bengals, Bills? Who's it going to be? I don't know. Maybe Ravens. I have no idea. There's so many things that can happen. Do the Raiders make it? No, they're out. Who cares? But Jarrett Stidham, does he make them a better team? Josh Jacobs isn't even playing this weekend, nor Chandler Jones. I don't think I'm going faster than usual.
I just realized that I'm the wrong person to ask about this because I usually, on weekdays at least, start my day with probably about 2 hours of podcast listening at 1.5 or 2 times speed.
You do.
So you doing that just then, it wasn't until like your 3rd gear that I even realized you were doing a bit.
I did have to downshift there just to get revving up.
When you downshifted and then revved back up again, there it is. Okay, he's doing a bit. But I think maybe Beards was in your ear. You're like, hey, we got to get out of here. We got a specific times to hit. Maybe then you're like, I got to speed this through and hit this real quick. I got to make sure I get all my points. So I could see that having happened, but I didn't notice it because my brain and my mouth and my ears all function's a strong word, all process at a pretty high rate of speed, if not a pretty high caliber.
That's right. Text says, will they do the coin flip at a disclosed rest stop like Friday Night Lights?
Wow, that's
the
beautiful.
only way. That's the only way you can do it. Midpoint between Buffalo or Cincinnati and Baltimore.
They're actually just going to do it in Indy. They're going to flip the coin, and it's going to hit the turf there, and it's going to start an earthquake.
All right, Bengals, Ravens, coin flip. Where are you guys going to play? We're going to do this coin flip in Pittsburgh, but at a rest stop. So there you go. Texas, if the Chiefs beat the Raiders and Pats beat the Bills, Chiefs have the true 1 seed. That's right. So, the Bills could have a beef if the Chiefs and Bills both win, and they go, we didn't get a chance to play an extra game. We beat them. We've got the same number of losses. They just have 1 extra win, but we played 1 less, 1 fewer games, and that 1 less game than they did, less fewer, whatever the correct
One more fewer game.
One more fewer game. One more less game. They played one extra game than we played fewer. They could the Bengals can't complain either way if the Chiefs beat the Raiders. Doesn't matter.
Beat the Raiders, Chiefs.
Doesn't matter. The Bengals have no beef about the Chiefs getting the 1 seed if the Chiefs beat the Raiders. The beef for the Bengals in the 1 seed is don't start off 1-3. Like, that's the rebuttal. You can't win the number 1 seed in September, but you can lose one. And it feels like the Bengals did. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Lee Sterling next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810.
going to win and by how much? You're about to find out from national sports handicapping champion Lee Sterling on The Zone. Log on to ParamountSports.com or call toll-free 800-400-9741 to get started.
It is a Red Friday, and a special kind of early Red Friday because the Chiefs are actually playing tomorrow against the Raiders. It's a great time to catch up with our good friend Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. It is 2023 now, Lee. What have you got in store for our listeners at Paramount Sports?
Well, we're going to try to keep rolling 15 out of 21 winning weeks since the start of the preseason, and it's a new year. Want to wish everyone, you and your family, staff, and all the listeners out there a happy and healthy 2023. So, like I said, 15 out of 21 winning weeks. They want to hop on board. They can get the last week of the NFL season, college football national championship game, which we've won 4 straight, going for 5 straight there, the entire playoffs, and also the Super Bowl plus our top 10 prop plays, and it will include my daughter's prediction for the national anthem, where she'll be going for her 8th straight win there also.
Yeah, we were thinking there should have been a prop on that Orange Bowl national anthem for your daughter. It would have been the ultimate inside game, but I guess one of those wasn't out there, right?
Yeah, they weren't going to put it out there. So she normally, I think, sings it like 138 to 140. She sang it, I think in the high 140s, early one. I think it ended up 152. She took her time, and
she did a great job. I saw the video.
Thanks.
That was an awesome honor for her to get to do that at the Orange Bowl. Very, very.
We were really proud of her.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some games. Saturday, this is a big one here. I don't think anyone in the world would have thought that the Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be playing for the AFC South title 6 weeks ago. But that's where we are, man. Can Jacksonville? They're a healthy favorite here at home.
Yeah, no one. If people probably mid-season saw this game, this line, they're thinking, okay, Tennessee will be a 2-3 point favorite at the very least. Well, Jacksonville's a 6-point favorite, and I think it could go up by the time the game kicks off here. So Mike Vrabel certainly tanked on national TV last Thursday. They have the most injured reserve players in the NFL. So a bunch of teams are banged up. They might be the most banged up team out there. I like the momentum and the way Doug Peterson played last week. Didn't want to interrupt his momentum, and they took care of Houston. They smacked them in the face. They also beat Tennessee 36-22, first game in Nashville. Titans secondary was awful in that game, and Tennessee's just one of those teams. They're not flexible. They don't make a whole lot of changes here, and the owner basically told everyone even before that, when they were 7-3, that we're in bad shape right now, and she fired the GM at 7-3. They're now 7-9, lost 6 straight here with a third-string quarterback. They are in trouble. I like Jacksonville, 30-20.
Be a great story for Jacksonville to make the playoffs in Doug Peterson's first year down there as well, because Trevor Lawrence looks like a player. And they're
how about Travis Etienne?
The needle's going the right direction on them for sure. That's good news.
Yeah.
All right, very somber. Everything happened on Monday night with DeMar Hamlin, and the Bills are now going to have to go try to win a game against the New England Patriots, who are playing for a lot, no doubt about this. What effect do you think this is going to have on this game? And the Bills are a 7-point favorite.
Patriots are one of the worst 8-8 teams I've seen in a long time. They have had the good fortune of playing against mostly backup quarterbacks during the season. They also, you could say that they earned it, but they returned 7 defensive takeaways for touchdowns, one of them in the Dolphin game, and I thought that was the difference maker. I thought Miami was controlling the ball in tempo until that pick 6, and that's the most in the league, 7 defensive touchdowns since 2017. They offense, big problem, scoring only 21.3 points per game. That's 5.3 fewer points than last season, and that includes all those defensive touchdowns here. Now, Buffalo, I think, is going to be maybe in a little bit of a funk for a while. They lost, a teammate, and it looks though now like things are improving. And I think the crowd is going to be a big part of it. I think the crowd is going to be so into it, and I think they're going to be the ones that lift them up. I do think Buffalo's got some problems on defense. If you watch that Cincinnati game, Cincinnati went right down the field and scored, and it looked like they were going to score again until the injury. So they're now on their third-string safety since Micah Hyde got injured, and Hamlin obviously is in the hospital. So I like Buffalo to win the game, and I think the crowd's going to be a big part of it. They might start slow, though, but I like Buffalo here, 31-17.
Another game in the East is the Jets and Dolphins. You want to talk about some teams just spiraling, man. They're both in real trouble. I would say someone has to win, but we've seen some ties this year. This is basically a pick 'em game. The Jets are a very slight favorite.
Let's hope not, because I'm going to the game. It means I have to maybe invest another 45 minutes or an hour at the game. So going with some friends, but the problem here is Miami's down to the third-string quarterback, Skylar Thompson. Even Teddy Bridgewater, when he played, was not good, and he was their backup. I like Skylar Thompson. He competes. He's not a starter. And also people played the Jets last week. A lot of people with Mike White coming back, but love playing quarterbacks the second game, not the first game back. So Miami's also really banged up. They're going to have a bunch of guys on the offensive line try to play in defensive backfield. They're down 4 to 5 starters in defensive backfield since the start of the season. You can't compete at that level. I'm not saying the Jets are very good, but they'll play spoiler here today. I like the Jets here in a barn burner, 16-10.
No one's going to get to 20. That'd be bad news. All right, the Bengals, their game was stopped as well. They're involved in this, but not the way the Bills are involved. They need to win games. Now, with the Ravens losing last week, it's not as big a game as it could have been, but the Bengals want to get right and be right going into the playoffs. They're a touchdown favorite against the Ravens.
I think they're the most dangerous team right now. Talk about a team playing at a high level. They have covered 20 of the last 23 games. I think they were on the way till the injury and beating Buffalo there. And Ravens got a problem. They just can't score. I mean, they've been held to 17 or fewer points in 5 straight games. Jackson only played 1 quarter during that span. And you have to go back all the way till 2005, where Baltimore scored less during a 5-game span. And the quarterbacks during that span, Kyle Bowler and Anthony Wright, were under center. Bengals 16-5 against opponents with winning records here. They're going to win the division crown here. Who knows? They could end up with number 2, number 1 seed. I like Cincinnati here, 28-17.
All right, the Chiefs have a big one, and they're playing the Raiders. They need to keep winning. I mean, and that's what they do. They just win. All right, They haven't lost in forever, but I don't think they've really looked complete since October when they went out and beat the Niners. They've just they got to find a way to win games, and they do that. I mean, they did lose that Bengals game in a tight one, but they just win, and they'll probably beat the Raiders, but they don't cover these big numbers. This is 9.5, 10 points.
Yeah, we've talked about the numbers all season long. Point spread record is shocking, maybe bordering on alarming. They're 2-13-1 against the spread the last 16 times facing an opponent under 500. 1-10-1 against the spread the last 12 games here following a victory, and 1-9-1 against the spread the last 11 games when laying 4 or more points. Now, the Raiders, you talk about blowing games, have covered the last 6 times here. They faced an opponent with a winning record, but they've blown 5. NFL record, 5 double-digit leads in the second half. Haven't seen that. And Jarrett Stidham, boy, did he play well. Only the second quarterback since 1950, that's right, with 350 passing yards and 3+ touchdowns in his first start. Jacobs, really good running back, has 2,000 yards from scrimmage. Devontae Adams played a great game the last game. Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow are back. So I think that they can hang with Kansas City. I think this line's too high here. I think Kansas City wins another shootout here, 35-30.
Well, the Chiefs would take the win no matter how it happens. All right, tell us about your game of the week. Pittsburgh's involved in this one. They got a very slight chance to make the playoffs, but that's your game of the week, and you've got a special for us too.
Yeah, anything can happen in the NFL, as they say. So we've seen stranger things happen, so they are still alive, playing their rival, the Cleveland Browns here. Cleveland got a big win last week and looked great. Pittsburgh looked good. You want to get this game for free? Just call 9741. We'll give you the game for free. 800-400-9741. Pittsburgh and Cleveland. If you want to get the $147 special, that's right. It's normally $347. It's not $247. Marked all the way down to $147. Get the last week of the NFL season, college football championship game, entire playoffs, Super Bowl selection, where we've hit 3 of the last 4, and also the top 10 prop plays for the Super Bowl. Just $147. ParamountSports.com.
That sounds awesome, Lee. We'll send them there. Good luck this weekend, buddy.
Thanks so much.
That's Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports, 800-400-9741, or online at ParamountSports.com to get that special. More Zone coming up next on a Red Friday.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
WHB Kansas City. And now, on Sports Radio 810 Sports Center.
This Sports Center is brought to you by Greenlight Dispensary. Check out their monthly Underground event this Friday and Saturday from noon to 8 p.m. The Underground at Greenlight Independence is Missouri's first and largest medical marijuana farmers market. Greenlight Dispensary, Independence location, 37218 South Nolan Road, Independence, Missouri, 64055. The news has been spectacular for Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who had his breathing tube removed and was able to speak to the team via video this morning. Hamlin was also named the Week 18 NFLPA Community MVP, as his foundation has raised nearly $8 million since his collapse on Monday Night Football. Meanwhile, the NFL will meet today to discuss how seeding will be handled for the playoffs. Here's the short version. If the Chiefs beat the Raiders on Saturday and the Bills beat the Patriots, a potential Chiefs-Bills game would be played at a neutral site if yesterday's proposal is adopted. If the Bills lose anytime before the championship game, it would be at Arrowhead as long as KC wins in Vegas. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, next.
With Jason Anderson.
You guys have been doing a lot of agreeing. Can I disagree with something?
Please, go ahead. Yes,
Lay it on us, and then we
it.
will double team you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Josh, you forgot to divide by the remainder, carry over the one, and then it's to the square root, right?
God, it's all the square root always gets me.
It's the square root.
I know what the symbol looks like, but I don't actually know how to do the math.
You got to square root it.
If you divide the Chiefs by the Bills and then multiply it by the Bengals, the game gets played in Jacksonville.
Yeah, but it's also then, isn't it going to, don't you need to add in the Bengals, or do you subtract Cincinnati?
You divide by Cincinnati, and then there's one situation where you have to account for Mike Tomlin. Not all the Steelers, but just Mike Tomlin.
And that's to the Ravens' power.
To the power of the Ravens, divided by the Browns. Oh, God. And when you get the XFL teams involved, poof, boy.
Jacksonville's an irrational remainder.
That's
so
accurate on a number of levels.
How does Saskatchewan and the Rough Riders fit into all this? I don't know.
It would be a neutral. It would be a neutral site. How about that? Chiefs Bills in Canada.
Saskatchewan. Well, the Bills are close to it, so they're close to Canada. Like,
my favorite
we
joke
can play there, eh?
My favorite joke of the week is that if the Chiefs win and the Bills lose, then Kevin McCarthy is Speaker of the House.
Also, Jason, just a quick geographical check for you. Saskatchewan is straight north of Montana, so Buffalo would
Canada.
be. I mean, they're close to Canada.
Canada is what I said.
I had to check because my Canadian geography is completely useless. Vancouver, Toronto, Saskatchewan. I think I kind of know where they're at, but it's really throwing darts at a board. So it would be a relatively neutral site. It's a 29-hour drive from Buffalo to Saskatchewan.
How long is the drive from KC to Saskatchewan?
I'm on it.
You ever do the Sporkle quiz about which teams?
20 hours and 29 minutes.
So it's closer to KC.
What?
So yeah.
With like which teams are closest to Mexico and which teams are closest to Canada and all the leagues. That is a rabbit hole that will take you down.
I did a ton of Sporkle quizzes back in the day. A ton.
I did 0 of them.
Oh, so, Jason, not a joke. You would love it.
He would.
It's basically but you get to pick the categories. It really is great.
No, I'm fine. So
let's go bleep myself, I guess.
We'll start off with the best news of the day, in that Damar Hamlin is awake. The breathing tube has been removed. He was communicating yesterday, writing.
Fantastic.
And he's communicating today verbally, a little bit, not fully, functioning verbally, but he's communicating verbally with his family. He has FaceTimed with the Buffalo Bills and teammates saying, "I love you, boys." So that is certainly inspirational for the news today, that the past 48 hours have been just good news after good news after good news, when, it was nip tuck for a good portion of when he left on the field and then left the field, that now on a Friday he's actually communicating verbally. So it was awesome news to hear that today.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. The best possible news. I mean, when everything went down, I was talking to a colleague on Monday night, and I was like, gosh, without knowing what direction this was going to go, but we were talking about what would be the best case scenario for the league and for all of us. And it's like, if there's good news by the time that these teams take place this weekend, it's just going to be it's just going to lift an incredible air over everybody. And I think we're there. I mean, that we're getting there. It's wonderful news.
I mean, if you're Buffalo and you've been going through the week you've been going through emotionally, and you've got a game against the Patriots that the Patriots view win and you're in, and the Bills have the number 2 seed on the line if they win. If they lose and Cincinnati wins, they are then the 3 seed, assuming the Chiefs win. But if they say they've got the 2 seed on the line, they've got something to play for, which would be Cincinnati in the divisional round that they play. It would be in Buffalo. So you've got this going on, and you've got to try to be focused on the Patriots, who we know might be going through different things, because Travis Kelce talked yesterday that it's been 1,000% it's been difficult this week to get ready for the Raiders. And so it's certainly going to be like that for the Patriots. But I'd have to imagine on a Friday morning when you're at the team facility 48 hours before going out there and playing a game against the Patriots that you've got a FaceTime in the big meeting room with the entire team, and he's up there on the projector and he's talking to the team. I'm guessing that's going to go a long way for the Bills in the, all right, let's go win. Let's go win on Sunday for him, for, everything that's gone on this week. Let's go take care of our business, because we don't want to add to the disappointment or add to anything that's happened this week by going out and then losing to the Patriots. We need to go make sure we take care of our business for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bound to still be conflicted feelings. I mean, there's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, and you can't calculate what the stress of this week has done, but you're right. I mean, this is probably the best case scenario for the Bills as far as, their mood and their emotions go and everything. And like I said, I think it's a big deal for the entire league, because I've been, really concerned about, what we're going to get this week, because week 18 is always one of those games and weeks that, there's teams that this is the last game. So, and there's a lot of teams that just got eliminated, and the Raiders are kind of in that category of teams that doesn't matter. I mean, the only thing they're playing for at this point is draft position and pride.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not playing for anything else. And then you throw this, just on top of everything. I mean, there's going to be a lot of players in the league just don't have a heart in it. I don't blame them for not having any heart in it this week. And, that's why I think it's just going to be so difficult to know, what kind of football we're going to get in week 18. And to me, it doesn't matter to a large degree, because I don't think that there's anybody in the league that, especially if you're not on the team that this has any impact on the rest of your season, on the postseason, I think you're even more checked out than usual. I don't blame anybody for being in that spot.
I think I've said it all week, and I'll continue, even with the great news from Damar Hamlin today. I think it's going to be a Herculean effort for the Bills to be the Patriots because of the week that they have had.
Yeah.
The emotional week, all over the place. I mean, players on different teams that aren't his teammate, that didn't experience that in real time on the field, are going through their range of emotions and having a difficult time preparing. I mean, Stephon Diggs stayed in Cincinnati. They're having team meetings and walkthroughs, and guys are still talking about, their teammate and thinking about their teammate, and their entire sort of feel is with Damar Hamlin, who's in a different city, and they're saying, like, really, we got to get ready for a football game, and this is what's going on over there. Are we being callous? Should we be focusing everything? Does football even matter at this point? I understand all of those emotions that somebody would go through. It's totally understandable, and there's empathy with that. I wouldn't blame him at all if it was, yeah, man, I'm focusing on Damar right now. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and break down what Mac Jones is going to do. Sorry, not going to do it. There may be a time and a place for that. So I think even with the emotional boost today and the inspirational boost today, I still think it would be a Herculean effort for them to go out and win the game against the Patriots, who I believe have more in terms of football impact to play for. The Bills are playing for 2 seed, 3 seed. That's big. Patriots are playing to even play in the playoffs at all. The Bills, they know, will be playing next week. At minimum, they'll be playing at least one more game. The Patriots win, and then you can play again, lose, and your season is over. That's a lot of motivation there, and a team that wasn't going through what Buffalo was going through specifically. Doesn't mean that the Bills will lose. I just think it will be a Herculean effort for Buffalo to go out and win that game.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
You put it very eloquently, which is that, I mean, right now the Bills are playing for Damar.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what they're playing for,
and that can be powerful.
And that can be powerful. The Patriots are playing. This is a playoff game for the Patriots. It's a de facto playoff game.
Yeah,
that's their playoff start this week. If the Chiefs win, I mean, tomorrow is essentially the only thing that the Bills are playing for. I mean, yeah, they're playing for the 2 or 3. There's not a huge difference in there. I mean, yeah, it decides where you play Cincinnati, but if the 1 seed's not in play, that's a big difference. I mean,
because then the question,
it doesn't matter anymore.
Because the question would be from Sean McDermott. Now we know for a fact we're playing next week. How much does rest and health matter versus where we play Cincinnati on the road or at home? I don't know that Cincinnati would be doing that because they've got Baltimore, and then, they may end up playing in Baltimore based on a coin flip, but both those teams have to at least weigh health, getting rest, versus where we actually play this game in the divisional round. That's assuming both teams even win in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and to a degree, I mean, the Bills will almost be able to choose their opponent to a degree.
They guess they would also be playing for a potential AFC Championship game being at a neutral site as opposed to Arrowhead, which is a thing that's never happened before, I don't think. They're not playing for the home field in a potential conference championship, just playing for neutral site. That's still on the table too.
But if the Chiefs lose to the Raiders, then everything's
if
on
the
the
Chiefs
table.
lose to the Raiders, I just think they should forfeit the playoffs.
Yes.
Like, please just beat the Raiders.
If the Chiefs lose to the Raiders, I don't want to hear any Chiefs fan complaining about any scenario because you've lost the right if you lose to the Raiders.
Totally. But from the Bills' standpoint, if the Chiefs lose to the Raiders, then everything's on the table. Then it's, okay, now you can go and be the 1 seed. If you just simply win, you're the 1 seed, and you get to host the Chiefs. And there is no neutral site at that point.
Right.
That game will be played in Buffalo if the Chiefs lose to the Raiders and Buffalo wins against the Patriots.
Now, at the risk of raising everyone's hackles.
I don't even know
what
what
is
that
a
means.
hackle?
It's like the hairs on your. This is an old expression from my grandmother.
Okay.
So it's the hairs on your. It's like basically raising the hairs on your arm.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that's what I.
Raise
so
your
at
hackles.
the risk of raising everyone's hackles here, this is what I find significant about the NFL scenarios, because I think at one point they just decided that when the math got tough, they were just going to punt. Because in these 3 scenarios, and remember, I mean, that's what I think important for people to know, is that those are the only 3 scenarios in which we're talking about the AFC Championship game being played at a neutral site. There's not like 17 possibilities. Those weren't examples. Those were literally the only 3 scenarios that they're considering. However, and in these scenarios, they consider the possibility that the Chiefs and the Bills both tie this weekend. That 2 games ended a tie. They actually calculated that into their scenario in these 3 scenarios. They did not take into consideration if the Chiefs and the Raiders tie or if the Bills and the Patriots tie. Because if the Chiefs tie the Raiders and the Bills win, then the Bills would be the 1 seed. Despite the fact that if they played the Bengals and the Bengals won that game, in that case, the Chiefs would move ahead of the Bills. But they would have to.
But they didn't play that game, so if the Chiefs tie, if the Chiefs tie and the Bills win, they would have the same record, but the Chiefs would have a 1 as a tie. So I would then eliminate that 1 game that the Chiefs would win or loss. So then the
Bills have the tiebreaker.
Bills have the tiebreaker.
So the Bills would host.
So the Bills would host. Yeah. So the Bills would be the number 1 seed. So the Chiefs. But that is true.
But if the Bills, if the Bills and the Bengals finished that game and the Bengals won.
Then the Chiefs
then the result would be no.
Then the Chiefs with a tie.
The Chiefs would be ahead. The Chiefs would be the 1 seed because they had 13.5 wins, and the Bills would have only 13 wins. And the NFL does not consider that scenario, that the Chiefs end up with 13 wins and a tie, and the Bills only end up with 13 wins. That can happen. And in that scenario, the Bills would be the 1 seed.
So what you're saying is falls down a well, the eyes go crossed.
And if
gets
the Chiefs,
kicked by a mule, they go uncrossed.
I think it's if the Chiefs lose and the Bills tie would be the same kind of scenario. So the NFL took into case the scenario if 2 games in a tie, but they didn't take into consideration if only one game ends in a tie. Take that irrational remainder and hypotenuse that in square root.
You know what you have done?
That was the square root.
You have raised my hackles.
I told you.
You have aroused my anger.
At the risk of raising everyone's hackles, because I know everybody's uptight about this as it is.
Would you like the dictionary definition of a hackle?
To arouse one's anger?
Pretty close. Erectile hairs along the back of a dog or other animal that rise when it is angry or alarmed. Or a long, narrow feather on the neck or saddle of a domestic rooster or other bird.
Well, that commentary, Matt, has erected the hairs on the back of my neck.
I thought it was for people, too, so I didn't know it was just for dogs and roosters.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. That might it's a figure of speech for
Have
people.
you seen your opossums get their hackles raised?
Have I seen the hack? Yeah, I bet I have.
I bet you have.
I'm going to keep an eye out for that. That's a great point.
Keep an eye on the hackles.
Here's the way that I would break that whole thing down of what Matt just said.
Do you think Nathaniel Hackle's got a fair shot in Denver?
Are you going to tell me that if that's true, then you still don't care?
If all of that happens, I still don't care about breaking it down right now and figuring out the whole tie. But in what I was actually going to say is, all of that being said, just beat the Raiders.
Absolutely.
Just beat the Raiders.
Absolutely. Built the Raiders and everything goes away. And
because if the Bills, what I was saying earlier is if the Bills had lost to the Bengals, then the Chiefs could tie against the Raiders and be the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and that's why I say if you
But they can't because they didn't play the game, so it doesn't matter. So just win, baby.
And that's why I say if you're a Chiefs fan, you don't have any problems with this scenario because if anything, this scenario has completely favored the Chiefs.
And also, let's just get this.
Because I'd rather have the bye than almost anything else and worry about the AFC Championship when you get there.
Let's just get this out there, too. If the Chiefs beat the Raiders, I don't want to hear anybody in Cincinnati complain about the Chiefs getting the 1 seed because the Bengals and Bills didn't play. At that point, that game would be rendered meaningless for the Chiefs getting the 1 seed. Okay? So from the Bengals standpoint, because if the Chiefs beat the Raiders, the Bengals can beat the Bills all day. It wouldn't matter. They would not have been the 1 seed. So they lose all complaints from the Chiefs' standpoint. Now, they can complain about, we didn't get an opportunity to beat Buffalo at home so that we can then play them at home the next time we match up. And we have to hope that the Patriots win and we win so that we can then host the Buffalo Bills in the divisional round. But we lost our opportunity to do that. So they could certainly have a complaint because they did have a chance at being the 1 seed if they won on Monday and then the Chiefs lost against the Raiders tomorrow. They could be the 1 seed. They lost that opportunity in that game. But again, none of this is easy. None of this is going to be equitable to everybody involved. No. There's going to be somebody that's going to complain. It's already happening. There are tons of people complaining. There are people complaining about if it's a neutral site for the AFC Championship game, which, again, that really doesn't bother me all that much because it means that the Chiefs are playing. One, they're playing in the AFC Championship game, so I'll settle at a court right now. If you said it's a neutral site AFC Championship game, cool. Chiefs are playing in it. Then whether it's Cincinnati or KC, or Cincinnati or Buffalo, the Chiefs are playing in a neutral site AFC Championship game. I'll take it. Do I prefer it being at Arrowhead? Yeah, I prefer it being at Arrowhead. But if I could choose right now, I will take door number 1 and say they play at a neutral site. But they're getting the bye. They're not getting the Bills and the Bengals. Things are fine for the Chiefs, even if they have to play.
Things are great for the Chiefs.
Even if they have to play at a neutral site. The only people that I would be bothered for are the season ticket holders that don't then get the AFC Championship game to experience and enjoy of you go through the process of being a season ticket holder, you pay some premium prices for preseason and some of those things, and you've been around, and therefore you get your seats for the AFC Championship game, and now you then have to travel somewhere. Who knows where you're going to be sitting? Who knows how much that ticket's going to cost? I mean, do they give right of first refusal to season ticket holders? Well, can they do that if you've got, let's say it's the Bills, you got Bills and Chiefs season ticket holders? Are they filling the entire stadium? And if you are, is there a season ticket holder that was sitting at the 50-yard line is now up top? Yeah, there's going to be some things there. I would feel bad in that scenario for the people there. But unfortunately for them, you are talking about relative terms, select few. Considering the entire NFL and fans across the country, all of that stuff.
And to me, you're also talking about a select few that you're talking about have never been season ticket holders because everybody else who's been one has experienced that before and had their chance. So you're talking about a very small group of people. And then at the end of the day, too, I'm like, you know what? Consider yourselves lucky. You got Patrick Mahomes. You're going to be in this spot again. If you're a season ticket holder, you're going to be in this spot again. You're going to get the AFC Championship game. And you know, because we're talking about a guy who almost lost his life on the field. Yeah. Let's put things into perspective.
It's funny that all week long it's keep it in perspective, keep it in perspective. Okay, here's what the NFL is going to do. That's BS. That's bullcrap. Why are they doing that? We're getting screwed. Yeah. Well, keep it in perspective. Well, yeah, it's awesome that, I mean, obviously everybody's thinking about him and says, but this is ridiculous. Yeah, I mean.
And you want to talk about raising my hackles?
Let's raise those hackles.
Raise the hackles, damn it.
And I say this with a lot of love, but this raises my hackles. I don't want anybody, any Chiefs fan, to come to me and be telling me and complaining about this scenario and quoting Joe Mixon about the rules. Because I don't need Joe Mixon to quote anything about any rules.
Did Joe
That's
Mixon
one of the
quote a
last
rule?
guys.
What did Joe Mixon say about a rule?
I also completely missed Joe Mixon's edition.
He was complaining on Twitter last night and quoting the NFL rule book about how the seeds are chosen and everything. Because the Bengals are basically getting hosed if they play the Ravens, because they might have to play the Ravens on the road, even if they have a better record than the Ravens.
Well, they would have to play the Ravens on the road if they lost to the Ravens.
But if they lose to the Ravens, they would still have a better winning record, a better winning percentage.
Right.
And so the Bengals want everything determined by winning percentage.
And you know what?
Like I said, I don't need Joe Mixon quoting any rules to me, and don't invoke Joe Mixon in your rules if you're coming to me with your argument.
Yeah, let's eliminate Joe Mixon from the conversation.
Let's take him out of the mix.
Yeah, I could understand from that point.
If it raise my hackles.
Let's say Joe Burrow.
Two name puns with absolutely nothing. I'm gonna have to get better next segment.
Let's say it's a different Joe. Let's say it's Joe Burrow. Says, you know, if we're going by winning percentage to decide seeds, and the Chiefs are getting the number 1 seed by winning percentage, even though they got a chance to play an extra game and win, then why wouldn't we just simply go by winning percentage to decide the division and who gets a home game with Baltimore? Even though they beat us twice, we've got a better record, you know, because us and the Bills both beat the Chiefs, but they have a better record. But you're not considering that for seeding for them getting the bye week, but you're considering that for specifically us versus the Ravens. There's two different ways that you're going about it. One is just winning percentage, they're your seeds. Winning percentage, but, you know, maybe we play at home, maybe play on the road, maybe you get this, maybe you get that. I understand that distinction of what could be frustration of even a coin flip having to go to Baltimore.
And I kind of wish the NFL did it the way that they decide elections in Illinois, because I think in elections in Illinois, if it finishes in a tie, they draw a name out of a replica of Abraham Lincoln's hat.
That's a true story. It's the land of Lincoln.
I would love it if they, instead of a coin flip, the NFL just chose a name out of a replica of, somebody's hat.
They should have a quarterback competition. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and a skills competition. So anything that would involve scrambling, okay, Lamar's got he's got a knee injury, but he's got the advantage there. Maybe accuracy, maybe Joe Burrow has the advantage there, but remember the old quarterback competition they had at the Pro Bowl where you had the little blue chalk at the end of the football, and they'd have the targets that would be on the wheels that would be going right or left, and you'd throw it. They got to do that with Lamar and Joe Burrow to decide who gets the home game. But how about this? Cincinnati just go beat Baltimore without Lamar Jackson. All right, Lamar ain't out there, so go beat Baltimore, and don't complain.
I say we decided like a World Cup. I mean, at the end of all this, let's just have a field goal contest to decide home field advantage. Oh wait, that probably wouldn't be a good idea here.
No, let's not do that. Let's not.
They ought to just draw it out of Brock Purdy's cup.
I'm trying to identify the pun there that I'm not getting.
No, I'm not even going to.
Matt, have you heard about Brock Purdy's nickname?
I guess I haven't.
He has we'll tell you during the break.
Yeah, it has something to do with a KU basketball player.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
That's a clown take, bro.
On Sports Radio 810.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, Matt Derrick hanging out with us, Chiefs Digest. I do want to talk some Chiefs and Raiders.
That is just crazy talk.
But something that I just mentioned there in the break, you know, we're talking so much about Bills and Bengals and the Chiefs and the bye and home field advantage, and if they play the Bills, then it being a neutral side. If they win and then Bills lose one of the next 3 weeks, then they'll get to host that AFC Championship game if they win. One thing I am convinced of, is that in that divisional round, the Chiefs will be playing the Chargers. Convinced of it.
Pretty good chance.
Convinced of it.
And what I would love to happen is obviously the Chiefs win and the Bengals win, and essentially none of these scenarios matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Bills would have to lose too, but if that happens, then none of this matters.
The way the Chiefs would not play the Chargers is if the Chargers, well, one, if they were the 5 seed and lost. Or if they were the 5 seed and lost, and then the Ravens also won, then the Chiefs play the Ravens. But I'm assuming the Chargers are going to be the 5 seed. I'm assuming the Chargers are going to go to Jacksonville or Tennessee and win that game. I assume the Bengals are going to take care of their business, and the Bills are going to take care of their business at home, and it's going to be Buffalo and Cincinnati in Buffalo, Chiefs and Chargers in Kansas City. That's my prediction for the divisional round 3 weeks from now. They don't have to play Buffalo and Cincinnati, but they do have to play a team they beat twice by a total of 3 points.
I've thought for a while that it would be, just typical Chiefs, though, fashion, that if Andy Reid had to go through 2 of his coaching trees to get to the Super Bowl, if he had to go through like Doug Peterson and Sean McDermott.
That would be interesting. I mean, I would prefer it being Doug Peterson and then
you know what they say,
Belichick.
I'm full of
well, I guess it wouldn't be Jacksonville
I'm full
if the 7 seed
wisdom
won,
and idioms today. When the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers.
That's beautiful. That one's probably even older than the ones your great grandma.
That one's been a lot longer.
That one sounds like Greek or something.
That's been around a lot longer than when the old lady every little bit helps. The old lady said as she peed in the ocean.
We discussed during the break. That one's from the late 1800s at minimum, we presumed. That's a fountain, a wealth of information.
My buddy had a great idea, and I want to give him credit for this.
Hey, can I hit you with some news here real quick on all the stuff we're talking about?
Yeah,
because all of this, I know it's really relevant, and I know how much you hate that. But thank you, Beards.
There we go.
I was going to clarify also that all of the things we're talking about right now are still the proposed solutions to this.
It's going to be.
So Jonathan Jones, it probably, but I bet this next tweet will be interesting. Jonathan Jones tweets, the Bengals are trying to whip up no votes from fellow NFL owners for the proposed postseason adjustments. The biggest issue for them is possibly losing a home playoff game to the Ravens off a coin flip. Owners meeting Zoom call taking place now. Jonathan Jones of NFL and CBS.
And that's what I'm fascinated with, in that I would have thought that before the NFL went forward with this proposal, that it would have had to buy in from the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Bills.
Mm-hmm. Well, you would have thought the speakership would have had all the votes too. You would have thought it wouldn't have taken 10 different votes to get there.
I just love the Bengals are out there whipping votes, trying to beat this thing down.
Yeah. Kevin McCarthy's like, I'll help you, Cincy.
I mean, doesn't all he have to do is just call Jerry Jones and say, hey, Jerry, you're getting hosed onto this deal. And
Mike McCarthy is the Speaker of the House. Kevin McCarthy is going to coach the Cowboys. It still doesn't fix anything in the AFC.
I've got experience in meeting and trying to come up with votes. Ask me how to help you. But my buddy had a really good idea that if the Dolphins do not make the playoffs, then in the divisional round, Tyreek is brought back and an honorary bangs the drum before the game.
Wow.
Tyreek, we'd love to welcome you back so you can still be a part of the playoffs.
Wow, that's incredible.
I love that. Like, they would never do it, but I do like it. I do think it'd be funny. Everybody, Look up now. Former Chief wide receiver Tyreek Hill wearing either an old Tyreek Hill Chiefs jersey or a Dolphins Tyreek
Hill. Full uniform. I want him in full Dolphins uniform, helmet and everything.
At the very least, get, Mark Fitzpatrick or something. He still needs to come bang the drum.
But you know what, Tyreek, we get to experience the playoffs.
Nothing wrong with it from my vantage point.
Yeah. But if he's watching it on TV, he can have somebody in his family lightly toss a bag of chips to where it would just softly land into his hands. Because that's really important to him, is being able to have a catchable bag of chips while he watches the playoffs and the Chiefs out there. So
that's better. That would still be a better idea than the random number generator that somebody came up with.
Yeah. 913-912-4810 is the text line. I do want to talk Chiefs Raiders. So
it's a bold strategy, Cotton.
I know. What do you think about the matchup?
Not
Matt?
much.
Okay. I don't. Well, I mean, there is a lot of assumption that the Chiefs are going to beat the Raiders. And all of it is like, beat the Raiders. Other than that, don't complain about anything else that happens. Just take care of business. But, I mean, how much of them playing the 49ers the way they did does concern you in terms of what the Raiders can look like on Saturday?
That was a crazy performance. And, I mean, I'm really intrigued by your breakdown of Jarrett Stidham.
Are you?
I am.
I'm going to get to that on Monday.
I can't wait to hear that.
Let's do it right now. So I went through and spent way too much time going through and watching every play in which Jarrett Stidham actually dropped back. Handoff, fast forward. And again, thank you to NFL Plus.
You do have to watch the hold on the handoff sometimes.
Thank you to the NFL Plus for the condensed game. Makes it so much easier.
Yes, it does.
So the only thing that takes a long time is just charting what actually happened. So one thing that really stood out early on was how often, anytime he dropped back, it was a play action. I mean, it was play action rollout, 20 yards to Moreau. First read there, throw the ball 20 yards. Second time he threw the ball was a screen. Third time, drop back, no play action. Stared at his first read, not there, then tucked and ran. Then a play action rollout to Darren Waller for a touchdown, 24 yards, in which Waller was wide open. Play action rollout, Waller escapes, wide open, pitch and catch. Every NFL quarterback should be able to make that throw. Stidham did, credit to him, but also, good scheming by Josh McDaniels and maybe taking advantage of the 49ers thinking there ain't no way they're going to rely on Stidham in this first drive. And him going play action rollout, play action bootleg. Here's a screen pass to Josh Jacobs. Next drive after that, quarterback sneak. Next time he touched the ball, picked up 2 yards. Then play action on his passes. The other thing that I charted and looked at was in the first half specifically, and this is what stood out along with the play action, what really stood out is in the first half, 18 of his 19 dropbacks, he either threw the ball or an incomplete pass or a scramble on his first read. First read, threw the ball complete. First read, threw the ball incomplete. First read, not there, tucking and running. 18 of the 19 in the first half. He was all, this is the scheme, this is my read. Oh, wait, it's not there. I'm going.
Eject.
I'm running. First read, it's there. I'm throwing the ball complete. First read, it's there. I threw it. I missed. First read, it's there. Great catch by Darren Waller going up for 25 yards, a ball that was overthrown, but he went up and made a phenomenal catch. First read there. Great catch by Devontae Adams on the sideline. Stidham put it to where only Devontae Adams could catch it on a comeback, but it wasn't an easy catch where he put it, but it's Devontae Adams. That was also what really stood out, is how much it was either play action, first read. Play action, first read. 10 of the 12 dropbacks before the 2-minute warning. Because 2-minute warning, they stopped with the play action because then it's, you're running a 2-minute drill. 10 of the 12 dropbacks before the 2-minute warning, play action or screen passes. So Stidham started off like 8 of 9. And he was doing what he needed to do, but that to me was way more Josh McDaniels than it was Jarrett Stidham. And now that you've got a game to go off of, and Steve Spagnuolo and that defense and what should be the studying the game plan and studying the tape of what you saw, there's clear tendencies of it's a play action and it's first read. And if it's not there, he will look to run. And a lot of those escape routes were right up the middle. When it was open up the middle, he tucked it and ran. He's a good athlete. Good athlete. I also charted 4 plays in which Stidham made the play himself. He's the one that did that. The touchdown to Davante Adams, a 60-yard touchdown. He dropped back. He was surveying the field. He got pressure. He escaped, rolled to his left, and then stopped and fired it down the field. Adams was open, but it was a great play by him. Kept it alive, 60-yard touchdown. So he can make a play. He's not just system, and that's it. Another one was a 20-yard pass to Moreau in which he sat in the pocket, had time, and it clearly wasn't his first read. He's looking right, looking left, comes back, boom, and a perfect throw and strike to Moreau and picks up 20 yards. Another one, he had immediate pressure and scrambled, stayed alive, found Josh Jacobs out of the backfield for 8 yards. And the other one was remember that pass late in the game where Davante Adams, 50 yards, that bounced off the defender and Adams, and they replayed it. It was when they needed the touchdown to eventually tie the game for the 49ers. That was Stidham in the pocket, maneuvering a little bit, and then firing it downfield. It was overthrown a little bit. You give your guy a chance to make a great play. It was also 1st and 20 because the previous play was a hold. So you needed a big play at that point. I'll give him credit for that. The interception, the first read wasn't there, and he just kept staring and staring. The interception in overtime, staring and staring. Finally, he went to throw the ball, but at that time he had pressure. His arm was hit. Flutters, interception, essentially game over. So there were clear tendencies for Jarrett Stidham in that game. I think you can look at the box score and go, uh-oh, Stidham played like that against the 49ers. And I think you can then tip your cap and say, well, that was Josh McDaniels in his bag coming up with a game plan, and it was a pretty damn good game plan against the 49ers because it worked. Stidham had to make the throws, but I think they used the aggressiveness of the 49ers thinking it will be a heavy Josh Jacobs game and a heavy Darren Waller quick little pass game, and used it against them with heavy play action in that game. And now the Chiefs know. So now I believe the Chiefs will say, okay, Jared, if you're going to throw it, you're going to have to beat us. You're going to have to make throws because we know you're a first read and then tuck and run. First read not there, stare it down, incomplete. First read not there, tuck and run. We know that. We saw that at least in one game. He's going to have to prove that he's not that guy against the Chiefs, and Spags had better make him prove that.
Because I'm not poo-pooing your scouting skills. I am saluting your scouting skills.
No, you should absolutely poo-poo it.
But you figured that out. I'm pretty sure the Chiefs figured that out by breakfast Monday morning.
Absolutely.
So
100%. 100%. Yeah.
And that's why in these scenarios, it's not unusual for a backup quarterback or a new quarterback to come in and succeed, especially if what you're doing is you're breaking against everything that you've done up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
That was first look. Those were all unscouted looks essentially that the Raiders were putting out there. Makes it tough. Now, if the Raiders want to do the same thing, Josh McDaniels has to come up with a completely new game plan because they can't do the same tricks because the Chiefs are going to be ready for them.
He had 2 incompletions or 3 incompletions in the first half, should let you know. 3 incompletions in the first half. One of them wasn't an incomplete. He had 4 throws in which they weren't caught. One of them ended up being a defensive pass interference. It wasn't a good throw. He stared down Davante Adams, threw the ball. It ended up being pass interference. It was questionable. The next one was the first read wasn't there. He immediately threw it to the ground. First read was Hunter Renfrow, wide open, missed him. Just threw it high. It's a touchdown. Touchdown to Hunter Renfrow, just missed him. And then the last one, first read, Darren Waller, a quick little 4-yard route, turn around, wait for the ball, and he threw it way to his left. And it was incomplete. So even with guys open, he was still missing. Like, he wasn't a perfect quarterback, even though some of that was schemed open.
And certainly a certain amount of their success was absolutely fudge it. Davante Adams is down there somewhere.
Yeah.
And if
at
that
least
works
one of
again,
them. At least one of them on 1st and 20.
If that works again, that's how the Raiders could beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But I just don't think the tricks are going to work the second time around. They're going to have a new bag of tricks, and I don't know if they can come up with them.
And if Josh Jacobs isn't playing, and he didn't practice this week,
it makes him even more one-dimensional. I'm assuming that Jacobs is going to play some because they're going to want to have him seal up the rushing title.
I know, but that's what's interesting is if he's got the what did they label it as for Josh Jacobs on the
He's like, I think
injury report.
He's like 100. Yeah, he didn't practice all week because he was personal, and he also had like an oblique. And
it was like oblique and hip. I think that's what I remember.
It's just listed as NFL running back, week 18. He doesn't feel very good. That makes sense.
What are the numbers in the rushing title?
I think he's like 140 ahead of Chubb or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, now I would imagine that if Jacobs doesn't play Saturday, that the Browns will just run Chubb into the ground to get him the title. So
he has, So 1608 for Josh Jacobs, 1448.
Oh, more like 160.
So he's 160 yards ahead of Nick Chubb.
That's reachable.
I mean,
I'd want to go out and get at least 50 yards if I'm Josh Jacobs. And
it's reachable.
You don't want to go Stephon Page on you in the last weekend.
And Pittsburgh doesn't have the best run defense, so maybe it's even more reachable if you're Nick Chubb and you're the Browns, and they don't have anything to play for anymore. The Steelers do, so maybe it is Nick Chubb try to get him the rushing title. They'll have a number in mind when they play, because whatever happens with Josh Jacobs, in that game. But I don't know. But if then let's take it from that standpoint. If Josh Jacobs plays because they want to get him the rushing title, then how often are you running play action?
Right.
Or how often are you then saying, no, he's playing, we're going to get him the rushing title, so we're handing it to Josh Jacobs to see what he can do. And if he gets 50, 60 yards, now we take him out. Now it's, okay, Amir Abdullah shouldn't be scaring you, so don't worry about the play action.
And a week after you showed play action, running the football would be smart.
Yeah, because you showed the 49ers that, hey, we're just going to pass on play. And they passed a lot in the first half.
In theory, you could have the defense playing on its heels.
Yeah, we'll see. But this is a game in which Spagnuolo had better not be surprised by play action, first reads, there's the throw, it's open, on time, and move the chains. This is one to where I think Spags should show that, no, I'm still a good coordinator. With a backup quarterback in there that's already played a game, that we saw some tendencies, and Josh McDaniels, they were still alive, so that's a game plan that you're going to put everything out there. This is everything that to beat the 49ers, because we're still alive, we're going to do all of this with Stidham. Now, you've got it on tape. How much different are you going to be when you're also not playing for anything? We'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get Matt's prediction on that game and then what the seeding looks like when we wake up on Monday morning. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Byron Pringle was born before you were.
Yeah.
And Byron Pringle was born when I was a junior in college. I just realized I could be your father. I mean, my social life would have had to have gone much, much better.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Matt Derrick hanging out with us. All right, Matt, tomorrow, 3:30, Chiefs, Raiders in Vegas. What do you think happens?
This is an incredibly hard game to project because I think it's just difficult to figure out where everybody's headspace is going to be. But based on what the Raiders did against the 49ers last week and we just discussed, I don't think the Raiders can come up with back-to-back performances like this. I think that you're probably going to see a more normal Week 18 out of the Raiders and that they're out of it. There's no reason for them not to play some younger players. They're obviously going to get a look at Jarrett Stidham. They're going to do some things. Chiefs, Andy Reid has told us he's going to play the starters all 4 quarters, and if the Chiefs are focused and they want to get that 1 seed, they should come out with a better performance. I still think this is an incredibly difficult game to project. But if the Chiefs come out and they have the bye on the line, they know what they're wanting to do, they know what they need to accomplish, they should win this game easily. I'll take the Chiefs 31-17.
31-17 in covering. So there you go.
I'll have them covering, yeah.
Chiefs are -9 in this game. So that game, it's actually fluctuated a little bit for the Chiefs. It started out 9.5, got down to 8.5, now right in the middle. They're at Chiefs -9, 31-17. Matt Derrick has that. Buffalo and Cincinnati, they both win, both lose. One wins, one loses. Any prediction with that? Also incredibly difficult to predict.
Also incredibly difficult. I mean, I think those should be close games. My gut says that Bills and Bengals both win.
Okay. Writing down gut, Bills, Bengals.
And my gut feels like 30% this week.
Hackles raised.
Hackles 100% up.
Hackles are 100% up. Matt, always 100% enjoyment when you're in with us. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
When I see you walking in, my hackles go right down, which I think is compliment.
Happens to me a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, no, Matt, hey, really. No, thank you.
Kendall Gammon next.
And all. I'm here with Brad McGee from LBA Home Services. Brad, any New Year's resolutions?
Nope, not one.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I was going to tell you when you came in here that there's going to be a time when I'm going to be at your house while you're asleep.
On Sports Radio 810.
Thank you to Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, hanging out with us. He's got Chiefs winning 31-17. His gut tells him Bills and Bengals both win this weekend. We'll see what happens tomorrow, 3:30, and then on Sunday at noon. Hanging out with Kendall Gammon, our guest here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on this Friday. Kendall Gammon presented by Freeman Health System. Centered around you, Freeman Health System, your local hospital joining your circle of trust, and Crown Automotive in Lawrence. Your Lawrence new and certified pre-owned Toyota Volkswagen dealership near Kansas City, Olathe, and Topeka. Experience the Crown difference at crownautomotive.com. Kendall, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
No, I am good. I'm fabulous.
Good. I am glad that you are you're doing good. So thank you for joining us.
You upgraded from good to fabulous.
That's right. Right on the spot, too. I mean, I looked over because I was looking at Jason, and I saw you, and it went from good to fabulous.
Yeah.
God.
It's
really,
crazy how that happens.
I don't want to sideswipe anybody else if there's anyone I'm not thinking of, but as far as I can tell, Kendall is the newcomer of the year for us this season. The addition to the show that has really just brought great joy to my life.
One, right?
I don't know. I'm worried that there might have been multiples, but you're getting my vote regardless on the ballot.
No, I think everybody is a holdover. I think everybody's a holdover and finished the season strong last year. So the only candidate is Kendall, but he also is now winning it.
I guess it also could be me, and I wouldn't vote for me. I would vote for you still.
I could be defined as last as well.
Not in my book.
Okay.
Not in my book.
Yeah.
You might be moving down the list in my book, though. I'm not sure.
No, join the club.
But you know
you're
what?
One of many. The list is long and undistinguished.
Well, I joined that perfectly. Slide right in. It's too short. Said, get in where you fit in. The undistinguished list, I will get right in there.
Beard, mark that for later, please. Thank you. Nothing, man. Nothing. That wasn't funny at all.
Fit in the indistinguished list.
Yeah, no, dude. You'll just hear it.
Too Short,
late in the 1 o'clock hour.
Too Short had some real philosophical lines. If you just listen to understand what he was saying.
I think when
I'm
you
just
listen,
hoping I get in.
Just not around your kids
because I've been trying to get in on one of the bumps here for I don't know how long. And
wow, that's true.
Yeah. Beards. What's it going to take to get
that about?
I just don't think I've made any. I need to do that.
We've definitely got some Kendall cuts.
That's just me being.
You should start creating a bump back of Kendall right after his segments are over. Weird. Maybe like February 5th. You know what? We finally got some Kendall Gammon ones when he comes. Oh, wait. So, yeah. Maybe get on that, Beards.
I think you can keep coming in during baseball season if you want.
Absolutely.
I'd rather talk to you about special teams, I think. Than
yes.
Absolutely.
Like spring training,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So is it a really tryout? Is it really a tryout if you're the only one that's there trying out? Because Matthew Wright yesterday was brought in by the Chiefs for a tryout, but he was the only one brought in by the Chiefs for a tryout. They then signed him to the practice squad.
I would go with yes, because if we went out there and he just it didn't go well at all, then be like, okay, well, I'm going to have to bring somebody else in. So clearly he must have passed the test.
So maybe they bring him in, make sure like you've still been working out, you've still been doing everything.
Probably so.
Okay, you look fine, you look the same. All right, we'll sign to the practice squad, which wouldn't make sense if Matthew Wright was just like, after Butker came back, all right, I'm done, guys. I'm just going to go not going to kick again. You're like, hey, we need you. Oh, wait, I should start kicking again. I mean, I think a lot of kickers out there still go out and work out just in case they get that call.
Absolutely.
So especially if you kicked this year. So it would be the expectation that Matthew Wright would go work out, try out.
Yeah, I'm sure he's been kicking, no doubt about it.
And it's precautionary.
It is.
But even precautionary, they did feel the need to go and do that.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, didn't Butker? He was out yesterday.
Back
or the day
spasms
before.
on Wednesday.
Wow, no, that's no fun. Having been through back issues, I don't recommend that at all, and especially for a kicker when you're trying to bend and contort.
Is it the saying? There's nobody has ever had a back injury. That if you've got a back injury, you always have a back injury.
Oh, I had heard that.
Nobody's ever had a bad back.
That was the awkward silence.
No, I'm just saying. Or maybe
maybe
the saying was nobody has ever had a bad back.
Yeah, I guess so.
That kind of once you got a bad back, it's kind of you got to.
I would agree.
You've got a bad back.
Mine went out a few years back, and now I take medicine, and that is one of the last things I ever want again.
But should also point out that not a back injury. He had back spasms.
Okay.
And maybe the insurance policy is maybe on Sunday it starts spasming again. It's like, oh, wait, well, now what do we do? Well, you've got Matthew right there just in case.
I would go with that.
Turn to practice
Breaking
yesterday.
news, Kendall and Jason. The NFL owners have approved the resolution
What?
modifying
Shocker.
this year's playoffs, the possibility of a neutral site AFC Championship game, and a coin flip to determine where a Ravens-Bengals wildcard game would take place, dependent part on what happens in Week 18.
So the Bengals did not whip up enough votes to get to the 23. Because 24 owners needed to approve it.
My politics and football timelines are indistinguishable right now. They did not have the votes.
There were a lot of politicking behind the scenes to try to get votes. Bengals and then elsewhere trying to get votes. Bengals were not happy about the coin flip provision there in the league's decision on what to do. But only 24 owners needed to vote, and 24 owners out there saying, yeah, we're good. Let's just move on. So there's going to be plenty of people might be unhappy, but let's just.
The fact is, you're never going to make everybody happy. The only way to build true consensus is to tick everybody off. So you just have to understand that in life.
That's exactly right. You know what? I'm an equal opportunity hater.
Yes,
I hate everybody.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm not biased
You're a
against one
tremendous
team or
slouch.
another. I hate everybody. Okay, I'm always negative. That's what they say about me. Always negative. Negative Nancy. What do you? We'll talk some special teams. I don't want to lead with that. But what do you think of what the NFL has done, at least in trying to alleviate the situation that Chiefs win, they get the 1 seed, but if the Chiefs and Bills match up in the AFC Championship game, I should say if the Bills beat the Patriots and they match up in the AFC Championship game, it is a neutral site. Other than that, the Chiefs will get an AFC Championship game at Arrowhead Stadium if the Bills lose one of the next 3 games or Bengals or whatever it might be. But still, what do you make of this decision that the league has come to?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty creative. I hadn't thought about it that way. And the fact is, again, what we said, you're not going to make everybody happy. The fact is, no matter what decision you make, everybody is not going to be happy. It's not going to be fair. But I thought it was pretty decent. I think the bye is much more important than where you play the game, and so I think that's fair that if it happens the way you said and they had to play at a neutral site, then that's fine. Obviously, we don't want to play at Indianapolis, but all the same, can you tell I was listening before I came in
That's
here?
right,
yes. I thought it made sense to me. I know I had somebody talk to me this morning about it, and they're like, well, do you like this? Because, I mean, this isn't fair to the Chiefs. This isn't right. I said, well, again, what I said. It's not completely fair, but nothing was going to be completely fair.
I think it's as good for the Chiefs as you can hope for.
I would agree with that completely, yes.
Because, I mean, we're assuming Buffalo would lose that game against Cincinnati, but what if Buffalo wins that game and then wins against the Patriots? You just don't play that game. You now have a scenario in front of you where you just simply beat the Raiders and you get the number 1 seed and you get the week off, and you don't, first and foremost, you don't have to play both the Bills and the Bengals in the playoffs to be able to advance to Phoenix to play for the Super Bowl. A week off and only have to play one of them, assuming you win in the divisional round, is a big deal this year in the playoffs.
Well, it is, and I'm going to tell you right now, you can't look past the Raiders and what they did. I mean, gave everybody free football last week against the 49ers and an overtime loss by 3. They did some things that I would not have expected. Now, again, it's not a true road game because having been in Allegiant Stadium, it's a very stale environment. It's not like you have to have a silent count, not like you have to deal with those type of things. But this is a team, I'm curious to see if they can come out, and talking about the Raiders, of course, and play like they did last week. But, I mean, that's that team and the 49ers and their defense and what they've been doing offensively, even with, Mr. Irrelevant at the QB position, was nothing less than impressive.
So the Raiders were still alive last week to make the playoffs.
Right.
And you see that effort against the 49ers and things like that. And a lot of things had to happen along with beating the 49ers and the Chiefs. The most improbable thing was just simply the Raiders winning their next 2 games against the 49ers and the Chiefs. Some other things after that happening certainly could have happened. Right. I mean, you could see a scenario to where the other things that had to happen could have, except for the fact that they needed to win out. So they're still alive in that game. Is there, while we talk about professionals, is there a different mindset when you go into the final game, nothing to play for, at least from a playoff standpoint? You've already been eliminated. It's the final game of the year. are guys already thinking about where they're vacationing, what the day cleaning out lockers, what Sunday's going to be like, things like that, what next week is going to be like, that you really can take a deep breath and exhale, all of that? Is that going on behind the scenes? Is that made out to be more than what actually takes place when you've got nothing to play for, quote unquote?
I will say from my standpoint, consciously it wasn't. Maybe subliminally it is, because you know what's coming. But I couldn't say that everybody was thinking the way I was. But in general, most of the guys are ready to go out there and play and perform because they know they're on film and they're playing for their job either with that team or 31 other teams. And probably the worst thing that you could have said about you, I think, as a player, is that you did give in, that you didn't give your best, that you weren't going after it, because that's just a lack of professionalism. So that's my thought process. Does it mean that some guys haven't phoned it in now? Absolutely they have. There's no doubt about that.
And the flip side of that would be, we got 3 hours to go out there and play as hard as we can and the end of the season and do what we can to win the game. We know we can't play in the playoffs, but let's leave it all out there. One game,
right.
and let's go do this. Let's upset the Chiefs. Let's go mess up their postseason.
And it's a division game, so nothing they would rather do if they can't get in the playoffs, which is make things tougher, make life tougher for the Kansas City Chiefs and their trek into the playoffs. So yeah, it comes better. It's unfortunately I have too much experience with that. I haven't played for New Orleans the 4 years. It was always that way. Then most of my years with KC, I think we went to playoffs a couple years while I was there. But it is different.
Yeah, Kendall Gammon is our guest. Let's talk some special teams, Kendall.
Okay.
Let's talk some kicking operations.
It's about time, man. We've had this wealth of expertise in the special teams. We haven't talked about anything all year long.
Never
it's been so efficient.
Have we had to talk about the kicking game, but we should have known that would be the case when we said, you know what, let's have Kendall on weekly.
Maybe it's our fault.
This is my fault.
I think it's all. We're all in this together.
I manifested this.
Why would we possibly?
You're the snapper. I'm the holder. Jason's the kicker. It's our fault, though.
This operation, and this operation also.
Beards is Dave Tobe, and he cannot get you to kick on time.
That's right.
By God, is he trying?
This operation working as smoothly as the Chiefs. So all three of us. Is it in Townsend's head when he drops the ball like that, or just had a bad play? It happens.
Both.
Okay.
You did have a bad play. It happens, but you could tell he was visibly frustrated with it, and he knows. I'm assuming he knows what's been talked about and everything. It does happen. It shouldn't happen at this level. If you asked him, he would tell you that, as would everybody else. But things do happen at times. It's just really unfortunate. I mean, when it happened and I was watching, it's like, oh no, that did not just happen. I mean, it's just like, oh, here we go. And of course, I got on Twitter and said, well, is there anything anybody wants to talk about? Something to that degree. And some people were just losing their minds and asking questions. And I didn't do anything else. I just put the stick in the pot, stirred it a little bit. Because I was just curious the reaction, and some people were not happy, understandably so. When it comes down to it, though, the operation's got to be better. Everybody knows that, and they've got to figure it out. And the fact is, you've got a kicker who's not healthy in Harrison Butker. They said that for the rest of the year, and now we know this game, with the back spasms and everything going on. It's not a perfect situation, but you just have to deal with it to the best of your ability.
Everything connected in your body from, the femur connected to the hip and on. No,
there's a song about that.
There is, yes. I do wonder, like the whole, working in concert, the kinesiology of the whole thing, that if you're favoring an ankle for week after week and kick after kick, does that start to then move its way up to the back? If you've done a certain thing the same way and your same, mechanics of kicking over and over, and now you're favoring one thing while you're planting or doing that, does it start to work its way and now you've got some back spasms? I have no idea if that's the case. I can imagine that when you do something like that the body, having to compensate if he is still battling an injury. But I wonder, is he battling an injury more than he's battling a trust of where the ball is going to be and the laces? Because now it has been so much in the conversation, it's so much being talked about, that you really can't just put it out of your mind, because everybody's discussing it, everybody's watching it, and he knows when he's lining up that people are watching it, right? Tommy Townsend knows that this hold is going to be watched and analyzed and discussed, when I don't know how often that really happens with a holder, like every once in a while, but every single hold the rest of the season is going to be looked at through a microscope for Tommy Townsend the rest of the way.
You know what? As having played the game for a long time, you're not thinking about those things when you go out. Yes, everybody is talking about it. I understand that. But inside the locker room, I understand that we as reporters, we ask a little bit as the press. But in general, otherwise, it's not in your mind a little bit. You deal with it. You watch the film. You work on it during practice and everything. But, I mean, you can even go back to the playoff game or – yeah, I think it was a playoff game. Tony Romo. I mean, he dropped that ball, whatever. It does happen for somebody who's actually very good with their hands. And so it is what it is. You deal with it. We think they're thinking about it because we're all talking about it. But truthfully, from my experience inside the locker room, even when things are going on and you've heard about it, it leaves your mind pretty quickly.
Dave Tobe said yesterday that, let me see the quote, by far this year, by far the most things that have happened in one season in his career of all the different things in special teams.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think that is a correct
the
assessment.
The message is authentic, yes.
Because of, I mean, it just feels like it's one thing, it's another. It's whether it's the punt returns, it's this, it's that. It's the kicking game and the extra points. And the Chiefs this year, like if you're just looking at, this is one thing that really stood out to me in extra points and field goals, what they're doing versus their opponents.
Right.
So in just the games they're playing, the opponents have attempted 62 kicks, field goals, and extra points. All right.
Per Schefter, Ravens head coach John Harbaugh says Lamar Jackson is out.
Okay. So there was talk about them saying, let's hold him out one more game. Now that you can't win the division, the only thing would be, do you get a home game versus the Bengals, or is that a coin flip? You could win that game and still not get a home game, so you hold him out for that game and make sure he's fully healthy for the playoffs.
Look at the graphic the Ravens just tweeted out. It's Ravens win plus Chargers win plus coin toss win equals Ravens home playoff game.
Okay, that's clever.
That is a real graphic the Ravens Twitter put out just a few minutes ago.
That's pretty good. But no Lamar Jackson. I doubt the Ravens win even happens. And I don't think the Broncos are going to beat the Chargers this weekend either, so we'll see. But the opposing teams have attempted 62 kicks against the Chiefs.
Okay.
Field goals and extra points. Anybody want to take a guess as to how many they've made?
I'm going to say all of them.
It's close.
58.
The opposing teams have swung their foot through a football 62 times. They've made 60 of them.
Wow. That's pretty close.
The Chiefs have swung their foot all year with Butker and Amendola and Wright. Swung their foot through a football 82 times. They have made 69 of the 82.
Is that, you said swung their foot through, just to be clear, attempted to swing their foot through, right? Because at least one of them, the foot never even actually got through the football. That one doesn't count.
Doesn't count as a missed extra point.
Only once the foot has hit the ball are you counting.
Not even counting that extra point.
And that'd make it 70, then that's
not even counting that extra point as being missed by the Chiefs. They are 46 of 51 on extra points and 23 of 31 on field goals this year. 84% success rate, with 50 of the 80 being extra points.
Yeah.
And the opposition is 97%. So even though we talk about it specifically from the Chiefs and the points they're leaving out there on the board, maybe it's luck, maybe it's not, maybe it's just one of those things, but the difference is stark in the games they're playing, that the opposing team is not missing anything.
Right.
And the Chiefs are going through all their struggles. And in the playoffs, you miss a couple and the opposing team isn't missing anything. You end up losing that game. The Chiefs have attempted 20 more kicks than the opposition, and that has resulted in only 13 more points in just kicking, and that's the Chiefs' offense.
Yeah, it is amazing, and you can take a lot of looks at that in terms of, okay, and they're still 13-3 and where they're at with stuff.
Still the number one offense in the league.
Which is amazing.
Right.
And, but you also know that, like you said, it's the truth. When it comes down to the close games against playoff teams, that's something that absolutely can bite you. And if it continues to go that way, it's hard to imagine that they could get to the Super Bowl and win it if they're doing things like that. That being said, if they did doing that, then you've got a whole different talk about, we're really good.
I mean, if the Chiefs make their kicks and don't turn it over, I don't think teams beat them. Like, honestly,
I would agree.
But the problem is they've had special teams issues all year, and they've turned the ball over all year. So you can't really say if they stop doing something they've been doing. It's January now.
I concur.
They had 2 more turnovers in the game in January, even though Seattle was, all right, they didn't turn over, they didn't miss any kicks. This is what you want to see. Very next week, 2 turnovers, a botched extra point, and maybe a botched field goal because, I mean, it was tipped.
Yeah.
And whatever happened on the offensive line, I do want to talk to you about that. Kendall Gammon is our guest. As to what happened there on the offensive line when it looked like Trey Smith didn't even move.
Right.
And then Andrew Wiley looked like his foot tripped over Trey Smith's, and Wiley's guy was able to run almost untouched. Did you see that in the offensive line, and what took place as Winchester and Trey Smith is where their feet were aligned?
Well, I'm going on what you're telling me because, number one, I wasn't watching that.
Okay.
And I haven't went back and watched it.
Pull it up while you talk.
Okay. But in general, I'm there snapping, then my guards on either side of me, their foot is behind me a little bit and outside. And literally, if they're too close to me and they're bugging me, I'm freaking hitting them. And I'm like, get your damn foot away from me until the first thing is first. I got to snap the ball. And I can remember, Brian Waters and Will Shields looking at me kind of funny when I'm doing that and giving me hell. But they kind of laugh at it and you go about it. But then the minute you snap, at least when we were doing it, the foot comes behind yours. So as a center, you're kind of vulnerable because you can get tripped up very easy because they're behind you. But everybody else kind of interlocks. I don't know how Dave Tobe does it now, but that's pretty universal, I would say. And if somebody didn't step, they were maybe either wider than they normally are and they were already where they wanted to be, or they just missed it to a degree. And so we're going to watch this real time. Follow me on the radio here.
Yeah,
so Winchester, Trey Smith is right there, Wiley's right there, and this guy ends up blocking it. So watch that Trey Smith never moves, never even gets out of his stance, and then Wiley loses his balance going to his right. I don't know if you could tell there. I can rewind it
one more time. That's
okay.
Interesting. I'm curious.
See, Trey Smith clearly got caught up with Winchester.
Yeah,
there.
And then whoever the tight end was, they're trying because oftentimes you're going to get both hands out, and you're going to have a hand on two people as opposed to one. I don't know that the tight end came down there. I couldn't tell for that who that was. Was that Wiley?
Well, Wiley trips over Trey Smith and loses balance right there. He's falling, and his guy goes right by him.
Yeah.
So Trey Smith. It looked like Trey Smith's right leg got caught with Winchester's.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form, his right foot got caught up with Winchester, and he can't get out of his stance. And then
sure
Wiley then loses balance. And that's sort of where it's like, if it's not one thing, it's another. So the ball's tipped there. Mm-hmm. When it first happened, I'm like, oh my goodness, he just hooked that.
Right.
He just shanked that thing. But then when I watched the replay, the guy who tipped it, before he even turned around, he started with his hand in the air, started celebrating.
So he tipped it. And actually that made, as weird as it sounded, like, okay, good, because it wasn't the kick so much. Yeah, you don't like what happened. Everything obviously is always correctable, but that is very correctable, and I think I've heard people talk about it this week. But again, it just kind of adds to the litany of things that have gone on, and they've got to take care of it. That part of it, I think they will.
The guards who's lining up next to you to either side, is there the same stance with the feet every time? Can they adjust it depending on distance and things like that?
Generally, it's the same stance, and they've looked at everything on film, and you see what they're doing. And for the most part, it's going to be the same stance by everybody.
It's interesting because, in this particular one, it looks like Trey Smith is lined up with his feet just next to him.
Right.
And then the extra point, it looks like Trey Smith is in like a sprinter stance with his right foot way far back, like he's got it in the block.
And
getting ready to go.
Was this after the block?
This was the next one after the block and the extra point. His foot was way back.
Generally, you do have the feet, the inside foot back a little bit, and you step in with that, and it helps you absorb the blow. I mean, when it comes down to it, you're a tackling dummy there, and they're coming after you. You're just trying to absorb blows. And for me, even for me as a snapper, as much as I didn't enjoy having guys just blow me up, because back when I was playing for most of the years, except for a couple, you could hit them head on. I'd rather them try to destroy me than try to get around me, because if they destroy me, they're not getting to the kick. I mean, and my ego, we weren't doing much anyhow, so my ego wasn't dealing with it. If they're destroying me, they weren't getting to the kick. If they're trying to get around me, that's when it makes it harder, and you really have to get there to help block and help make the play successful.
Yeah, interesting. So, we talked about that after the game was over, and I'm like, I'm really interested in talking to Kendall Gammon. Can't wait till Friday to see what he has to say about this one. So,
what do you think it'll be next Friday? Like, let's make you predict it this time. What's going to be the fun?
I'm not manifesting anything. It's going to be sheer excellence, is what it's going to be.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about sheer excellence next week. Okay, I support that.
Help me help you.
I'm now looking at the all 22. And actually, you know what? Trey Smith's foot is back, but for whatever reason, it just. Here's the all-22 now from the
the Raiders are housing a kick this week. That's
from
right.
the other end zone angle. All right,
Okay,
Kendall. We'll let you. So they're in the same stance that they would be. Trey Smith's foot back here. Wiley's right there. Here we go. Watching it.
As you look.
Watching it. I'm not sure, but the guy came straight through.
I feel like the tight end could have stepped down a little bit more. Whoever that is, right there.
Noah Gray.
Noah Gray. I feel like he could have stepped down and helped out a little bit more, and he had his hands full.
Well,
on
that
the
guy
outside
went.
as
That
well.
guy went to the right of Creed Humphrey over here. So Humphrey next to Wiley. It looked like he went right between Wiley and Creed. I don't know.
The guy that came in went between
Wiley and Creed. So he came in right between Wiley and Creed.
Yeah, exactly right.
So
yep, and so I feel like the tight end there could have stepped down more. I guess that was Noah.
Yep. So yeah, but I would say that hasn't happened this year.
It has not.
So I think it adds to the frustration of you've got all these issues with the kicking game. That hasn't happened. I'm less concerned about that than I am about the hold and the laces and Butker and whatever's between the ears and putting it between the uprights, because we've seen that happen all year.
Right.
Too much, especially in the NFL today when kickers are so accurate. That's the first time I've seen where a guy just goes right between Creed Humphrey and Andrew Wiley is essentially untouched and goes in. And even with that being the case, he still only tipped the ball.
Right.
It wasn't just a flat-out block that they then picked up and could take it the other way. It was still just a tip. We haven't seen that happen.
And always
this
when
year.
you're trying to block a kick, you're always trying to get somebody out of position and be able to knife through somewhere.
Yeah.
And generally that involves a defensive player holding on to somebody and trying to keep them from getting to where they're the landmark that they're supposed to get to. And I feel like that's what happened in the C gap a little bit. But again, I do see what you're saying with people not stepping down.
But yeah, I mean,
you're right. It hasn't happened. That'll be corrected. But the one thing you've talked about is the operation things. Hasn't been perfect. That just, the numbers don't lie, quite honestly.
Yeah, my concern really isn't with Winchester, Trey Smith, Humphrey, Wiley.
Yeah, exactly.
Gray.
Right.
Guys on the Tooney, guys on the offensive line that are blocking for the kicks. That's not my concern there. The concern is the operation of the hold and then Harrison Butker. The other thing that came up is a fumble on a punt return with Kadarius Toney, and Dave Tobe talked yesterday, and Sam McDowell asked him, it was Jesse Newell actually. Jesse Newell asking Dave Tobe about, the aggressiveness and catching the ball inside the 10, but also, the value of simply just fair catching it.
Right.
And Dave Tobe was, pretty, I don't know if it was defensive or whatever, but no, that's not the answer. That fair catching, you can drop a fair catch. Fair catching is not the answer. Just fair catching everything, that's not the answer. It would be the answer if you didn't ever have to worry about a return, if you just simply caught the ball. And the number one thing on the punt return should be that number 15 gets to go out there and play football. He did say, and I went back and looked at the all-22, that Toney probably scores if he has the ball in his right hand and the guy doesn't reach out and poke it free. I agree. Looking at the all-22, there was nobody over there. And about 4 Chiefs blockers if he just gets around that guy.
But
the issue is he didn't.
Yeah, exactly right.
And he fumbled.
Understood.
So it still cost the Chiefs a possession. And to me, is the risk worth the reward? Is the risk of turning it over worth the reward of maybe you house it, maybe you picked up 20, 25 yards versus, I don't know, maybe Mahomes doesn't even get the ball?
Yeah, and you'll have to correct me. Is that the first fumble that Kadarius has had?
Yes.
Okay, and so, you never like that, and I know we've had other things that happen, but this is a guy that could change the game, and when you talk about changing the game in the playoffs, special teams play in those hidden yards is a big deal. I understand, it's a bigger deal to get possession, but I still think you can't play scared. You have to go after it. If it happened another time, then you start to wonder. But because I remember watching that, I was like, oh, he's returning that, he's going after it. And it's like, oh, no, that didn't just happen. And it was I felt bad because it's going to get scrutinized times 20.
Yep. And it's unfortunate that happened because I think it highlights two things. It highlights the player that Kadarius Toney is.
Right.
And it highlights another issue with the special teams and just another negative that came from the special teams because Dave Tobe said they had a kick block on.
Right.
So that was really created by Toney. He went left. He got guys out of the lane. He was quick enough to then squirt back to the right. And maybe he needed one more step to be able to switch the football to his right hand. But if he's got it a little stronger in his left hand and gets by there,
yep.
You're right. That could be the difference in a game of, hey, the Chiefs would have got the ball at the 10-yard line if they fair caught it, and instead they just put 7 points on the board against the Bills or against the Bengals or whatever it might be whether it's the offense. Certainly the Chiefs could have used a great special teams play last year in the AFC Championship game in the second half. That would have been a difference maker. Yep. You wouldn't have had to rely on the offense, et cetera.
I think the big
concern
deal
is just
also here
Mahomes not getting it.
Is also that other teams, Jason, are watching that film, and they're seeing it also like, man, if he doesn't fumble that, he's gone.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, okay, we got to deal with this. So even though you had the fumble and everything happened, and we're talking about that, from a special team standpoint, from our opponents, they're looking at it like, okay, now this is an issue because they're going to continue going after it. We've got issues going on. And the other thing with oftentimes you get big returns when a block is on because there's so much pressure that everybody that's blocking on the punt team, they're in there longer than they normally are because they're going to have to they're having to hold up because 8 are coming. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes you have more space between the catch and then the gunners, because if you take care of your gunners on either side and you've got a big rush on, oftentimes there's more space. So I think a lot of special teams coaches would tell you that returns, big yards happen on rushes.
Does it? I mean, is there a natural instinct from the punt coverage team that when there's a rush on, that maybe if you're a little freer, that you get out of your pursuit angle lanes in the punt, that it allows you to, this guy steps left. So many people overreact to Kadarius Toney going to his left that him cutting back right left just a wall of blockers and really no Denver Broncos there. Is it easier then? Maybe it's like, okay, well, maybe they've got a tendency to get out of there or to overreact if there's nobody that they're also going through a block to try to get there. I mean, I don't know.
I think that's a fair enough result. You know, the thing, or fair enough, I guess, point. The big thing, which I'm seeing with Kadarius, and I'm getting off of it, is he is pretty. I mean, he's pretty talented. He is. In the open field, he's a special player among special players, and I don't know. I think you got to keep him going until something else happens, and I just don't think it will be, because I think he's going to be aware of it, and I think I don't know. I think it could be a big difference maker, whether it's in this game or not. I don't know, but in the playoffs. You get 10, 15, 20 yards. You're picking up a couple first downs before Mahomes even gets out on the field. And also, there's a big difference between getting the ball between the 5 and 10 and also getting it out at the 25, 30. It opens up the playbook, and obviously I know you guys know that. But I think those are the hidden things that sometimes have to be looked at, as opposed to, we just want possession.
Kendall Gammon is our guest. Kendall, what do you think happens tomorrow, Chiefs, Raiders, and if you have a score in mind?
Yeah, I think I said something. You guys might have said it. I think I said I've been thinking like 30 to 17, somewhere in there.
30 to 17?
Yeah.
You got you written down.
You know what? I shouldn't be saying that, though. I've been saying double digits the last several weeks. And
you were right about. You were right in Seattle. The Seattle game, you nailed it.
Yeah.
So you were right. They're eventually going to cover. They have to, outside of that one game against the Seahawks. So we'll see. I think the Chiefs should go out there with the number 1 seed on the line and handle their business.
Yeah,
take care of their business.
When you know that that's available, you've got to go after it.
Kendall, you're the man. Really appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's Kendall Gammon, our guest here on this Friday. And as always, Kendall Gammon is presented here on Sports Radio 810 by Freeman Health System. Centered around you, Freeman Health System, your local hospital, joining your circle of trust in Crown Automotive in Lawrence. Your Lawrence new and certified pre-owned Toyota and Volkswagen dealership near Kansas City, Olathe, and Topeka. Experience the Crown difference at crownautomotive.com. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Final hour on a Wednesday, hump day edition of the show. Speaking of that, Mick Shaffer joins us, KSHB 41 sports director. Hey, guy. Huh? How you doing?
Humping away.
Yeah.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I will continue on this Friday edition of The Zone. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41.
Brief appearance from Mick Shaffer.
Yep. See you, Mick. All right, there you go.
Oh, he's back.
All right, cool. Oh, hey.
Hey,
Mick
Mick.
Shaffer's here. We are studying AFC Championship game neutral site scenarios.
I like your chart. Your chart is simpler than the chart I was looking at. And if anybody includes a chart with or has a chart with all the tie scenarios, get out of here.
Nope. No, thank
Nobody
you.
wants you. Go home.
So there are 5 scenarios that would involve a neutral site game between the Chiefs and either or Buffalo or Cincinnati. Chiefs win, Bills win, Baltimore wins. If the Bills and the Chiefs match up, it'd be neutral site. Chiefs win, Bills win, Bengals win. If the Chiefs and the Bills match up, it'd be neutral site. Raiders, Patriots, Ravens win. The Chiefs match up, it'd be neutral site. Raiders, Patriots, Bengals win. Chiefs match up, it'd be neutral site. Raiders, Patriots, Bengals win. The Chiefs and Bengals match up, it'd be neutral site. Everything else is Chiefs get to host. Or Buffalo host if the Chiefs lose to the Raiders and Buffalo wins, and then they're the 1 seed. And
it's going to be this scenario here. It'll be the second one down.
Chiefs, Bills, Bengals.
They all win, especially with Lamar not playing. And so that would result in, if Buffalo and Kansas City made the championship game, it being at a neutral site.
I think there's a decent chance it's the 4th one down, too. Chiefs, Patriots, Bengals.
Yeah.
And then it would be...
but Bills are favored, right?
They are. They are favored in that game. I don't know what the line is on that one, but yes, they are favored.
I hope for that scenario. I mean, we can...
I hope for the scenario,
Bills, right?
I hope for the scenario just because it alleviates all the complaining about, well, how did the Chiefs get the 1 seed?
But that will create confusion, first of all, once we get to the championship game and it's held at Arrowhead. Wait a second. I thought.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. That so many people are going to be confused by this. But it makes sense if you sit down, you read it out, you think it out, like, okay, this makes sense. This is, everybody's given a little bit here. It's a great deal for the Chiefs, honestly. You win this week, right?
Yes.
You have, of these, are we going to call them 8 scenarios, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
8 scenarios. 4 of them result in non-championship game.
Right.
Yeah. 4 of them result in not having to go to a neutral site.
Yeah.
For a championship game if you faced either one of these teams.
The 3 games that we're talking about, they're all wide margins in spreads. KC's -9, Bills are -7.5, and the Bengals are -9.5. So, they're not expected to be as close of games. So we'll find out, what happens with that. But if the Chiefs win and the Bills lose, even if the Chiefs let's just say the Chiefs just win, there is no complaining from the Bengals as far as the 1 seed. As far as the Chiefs getting the 1 seed, there's no complaining from Cincinnati if the Chiefs win.
But there's already, I feel like there's going to be from idiots out there who have already said, well, the Chiefs went 0-2 against the Bengals and Bills. Is that fair? Well, that was going to be the case if
the Bills lost to the Bengals
even if
anyway.
The Chiefs got the 1 seed anyway, right? Yeah. And so that's kind of how it works.
Well,
it's not just head-to-head.
So if the Chiefs don't deserve the 1 seed because they lost to the Bills and the Bengals, then should the Colts get the 1 seed because they lost to the Colts too? So
that's what people don't realize.
How does that work? Because in 2020, why didn't the Raiders get the 1 seed? Because they're the team when the Chiefs played their starters to beat the Chiefs that year. Or the Chargers, even though the Chiefs rested their starters. They lost to both the Raiders and the Chargers. They lost twice in their own division. How in the hell can they host the championship game when they had 2 losses within their own division? Yeah. I mean, come on. This is like Alabama LSU again. This is ridiculous. So, yeah, it happens all the time. Happens all the time with losing to a team. And then Chiefs lost to the Bills and the Titans last year. Titans got the 1, but they lost to the Bills. They still hosted the Bills in the AFC Championship game after losing to the Bills. So, yeah, the complaining about the whole thing, don't really care because it's interesting how quickly it goes from DeMar Hamlin and his health and what matters and the human side of it.
Well, Chiefs beat the Patriots in 2018.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But then they hosted.
They hosted them.
They ended up hosting that one. But
no, the Chiefs lost to the Patriots in 18. Ended up hosting.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
Because that's Mahomes'
Yeah.
first year, his first loss.
Well,
to
what
Patriots,
the Chiefs typically do is lose to teams that they end up hosting in the championship game. So, except for that old Bills in 2020, and they went to Buffalo, and that was the COVID game that got moved, and then the crazy game where they ran the ball about 50 times, and the weather and all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's but it is interesting how it changes from. There are bigger things in football. There's the humanity side of it. There's the human side of it. There's a person's life that is, he is fighting for right now, to then, this is what we're going to do to try to overcome the fact that this was such an unprecedented event, and it's only happened, one time that we've had to cancel this one game, and it's this late in the season, and there's really nothing we can do. We're trying to make it better for everybody. You're screwing our team! This is BS! Why are we getting the shaft?
Right.
This is dumb! 24 hours after, who cares about what the result is, okay? This person is fighting for his life. So when did it change? Is it Wednesday at like 10 o'clock that you sort of could move the page to then go, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and it's dumb? I think there is zero complaining from Kansas City, to be honest with you. I think there should be zero complaint.
There should be none. I mean, look, you can be very concerned for DeMar Hamlin and all that, yet still be concerned for your team and think this is an unfair scenario. But I don't think it's an unfair scenario. I think that both can exist, but I don't think they should.
It's like in was it Newsroom on HBO that gosh, who the actor is? I can't remember.
Jeff Daniels?
Jeff. Yep. And he said he was the anchor, and he's like, yes, thoughts and prayers are with the victims. Nobody's thoughts and prayers are with the fire.
We get it.
Thoughts and prayers are with the victims of the fire. Yeah, we understand. We know that. That's assumed. Nobody's thoughts and prayers are with the fire. Okay, so we can be of two minds. We can talk about this while also knowing that everybody acknowledges thoughts and prayers are with the victims of the fire. We are not thinking and praying for the fire. Yes, I mean,
that's exactly it.
Right. So we can talk about these things as well. But one, if the Chiefs beat the Raiders, no complaining from the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of who the 1 seed is. Also, here's the easiest way that I could possibly describe it for knowing if it's a neutral site or if it's a home game for the Chiefs. Chiefs beat the Raiders.
Different results. And the Bills lose.
But I mean, if the Chiefs beat the Raiders and the Bills lose any games over the next 3 weeks,
right,
the Chiefs will host the AFC Championship.
True, yes.
That's it. That's
a good way.
They have to win their divisional round, obviously, but to host the AFC Championship game, beat the Raiders, and then the Bills lose. Bills don't go 3-0 over the next 3 weeks against the Patriots, against maybe Patriots or Jets or Dolphins, and then beat the Bengals at that point. But I also am predicting that the Chiefs in the divisional round, while they don't have to play Buffalo and Cincinnati, they will play the Chargers in the divisional round. That will be Chiefs and Chargers in the divisional round at Arrowhead Stadium. Calling it right now. Because I think the Chargers are going to be the 5 seed. I think they're going to go to either Jacksonville or Tennessee and win. And then the Bengals, as the 3 seed, will take care of the 6 seed Ravens, and then they'll head to Buffalo.
Yeah.
So then it'll be Chargers as the lowest remaining seed as the 5 seed, and it'll be Chiefs and Chargers.
And
and while
they
don't have to,
it'd be 2 games they played close.
100%. They don't have to play the Bills and the Bengals, but they're 2-0 against the Chargers by a total of 6 points.
Yeah. And I feel like the one they kind of stole was the one at home at Arrowhead. The one they kind of should have put away, I believe, was the Derrick McKinnon fumble, right? When they were going in to score,
and they were up again.
Kind of put this game away. Yep. Then it became a game again.
Well, that's that
was
I've
the
never
one
heard of
they
that before.
dominated more.
I've never seen that scenario before, to where the Chiefs
had to put away.
They had a 4-point lead and the ball, and then they fumbled, and then the other team went down and scored a touchdown. And then the Chiefs got the ball back.
I'm telling you would rather the Chiefs offense have the ball down in the fourth quarter, I think, than winning.
Yeah, but the difference in those 2 games is that the Chiefs, when they got the ball back after the touchdown, one game they scored a touchdown, the other game they missed a field goal. There's your difference. Because both scenarios happened. You had the lead, you fumbled, the other team scored a touchdown. And then you got the ball back. What did you do with it? Got stopped, had to kick a field goal, or drove right down the field in the Chargers, and Mahomes went Mahomes.
Well, and then also the one here was the 14-point swing of the interception in the end zone, ending in the other end zone.
And then the difference being the fact that Andy Reid made the clear right decision by kicking the field goal on fourth down at the goal line.
I can't remember that. I hope it's a shot at Josh.
I mean, it was the
or not,
obvious
but I
right
can't
decision
remember.
because when the margin of victory
that was Matthew Wright.
When
still,
the
right?
margin of victory was 3 points, it's the
right.
obvious right.
Obvious.
Every decision you made was right because
Well,
you won
and
by 3 points.
He also made the decision to kick the PAT 3 times. That could have been the
Great
3
point.
points.
decision.
That's also a
Great
good decision. Spagnuolo made the decision to put Jalen Watson in that spot. So all of this
games
is part
would
of
go
game
the
planning.
exact same
Yes.
no matter what
Every
the
time,
score.
that's right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The margin of victory was 3, and they kicked the field goal. There should be zero complaining from anybody about anything, right, Josh?
Anytime you win a game, it means everything that got to that point was the correct decision. Absolutely. It's why Chiefs Texans is personally my favorite game of the year. They
Yeah.
won the game.
They won.
I
It's
mean,
all
it
that
was
matters.
perfect football.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand about the complaining or anybody being worried. This team is 13-3 with a chance to go 14-3, and their 3 losses are by a total of 10 points.
What about all the bad decisions every single play they made against the Bills?
I don't remember those.
And against the Bengals.
Yep, every single play.
Everything they did against the Colts, Bengals, and Bills were
was wrong.
terrible, bad coaching, bad execution.
Even
That's
when they
actually-
scored those touchdowns.
That actually,
Why then?
That
Why
might be
not-
true for the Colts game specifically. Actually, beyond exaggeration. I think everything did go wrong in
But
that
here's
game.
the issue with those games, though. Why just score so fast against the? You scored, and then the Bills got the ball back down 3. Why didn't you score? Why didn't you take longer to score so the Bills wouldn't get the ball back? That's on Andy Reid, if you
That's
ask
what
me.
people don't consider, man. When you score a touchdown, the other team gets the ball back. It's like a glorified turnover.
Yeah. Like, how are you supposed to say our job is to
Pearl's
keep
on a pig, but I mean,
our job is to keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline? Well, then
I'd
don't
like-
score.
I'd
Just
like
hold
for
the
the
ball
NFL
the whole
to
time.
Keep adding things. Let's go make it take it for the playoffs this year.
right.
Down.
I think the Chiefs. I bet I can tell you for sure. Clark Hunt is casting a vote for yay on that one.
I will tell you that if
Not
there's
the artist.
if there's
YEA.
if there's one thing that Chiefs fans want to see is more emphasis on the special teams units out there. So onside kicks every time. You need more special teams impacting a game. We just highlight that and magnify that a little bit more.
I am glad they went with this over moving the playoffs back a week. I think this
Yeah,
is
me
a
too.
way better decision.
Me too. Beards wants us to make a decision to break, so we will do that right now. Right? Yes? No?
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So what we had planned for this segment, we got into Jack Bleep of what we were going to do here.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Probably should have looked at the clock before took that bite.
Granola bar over there? What you munching on?
I feel like you have time for another 2 bites in this segment.
Crunchy or chewy? That really changes the
crunchy.
Really changes the ballistics.
Yep. So Chiefs got to play all their games in Indianapolis the rest of the way, right?
That's starting
what
Saturday.
I'm reading, yes.
They're moving it from Vegas to Indy.
I think that's what people are understanding from this, at least the reaction I'm seeing.
Well, I just saw they're going to play home games in Indy next year. That seems unfair.
No. Why is that unfair?
They're demolishing Arrowhead. That's real. Wow, these are some strange pieces of news.
So if they're demolishing Arrowhead, where were they supposed to play?
Downtown with the Royals, and then into
Nate
Indianapolis.
Bucati's backyard?
That's sure.
That he does for Thanksgiving?
That'd be fun.
Drawn out there.
Well, he lines it up for soccer now, so then they got to rework everything. That's too much work. Just play it in Indy. That's
There's
what I
a tree
think.
in that backyard, too.
Oh, that's tough.
Saturday, the Chiefs wrap up the...
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know, there's a player on the Royals currently that whose final 44 games of 2018 was a 262 batting average, 353 on base, 597 slug, and 950 OPS with 12 home runs, 30 RBIs, another 10 doubles, 2 triples. And that guy's name is Ryan O'Hearn.
I'm going to pretend I heard all those numbers.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You know, there was a time we thought that those Ryan O'Hearn numbers would no longer be relevant when he was an Oriole. Now that he's no longer an Oriole, they could be relevant again. The Orioles DFA'd Ryan O'Hearn yesterday.
He's been DFA'd twice then.
Twice in the last week.
Days.
Yep. So the Orioles, do they now consider the cash anymore? Because they traded for Ryan O'Hearn, and the Royals got back cash considerations. When they DFA Ryan O'Hearn, like 2 days later, are those considerations of cash withdrawn? Yeah, we were considering sending cash, but we got somebody else and we DFA'd him too, so we're no longer considering that cash.
You should have struck while the iron was hot, Royals. I mean, now this is a DFA player.
Yeah.
We don't even want him.
Why
would we pay you money?
You gave us 2 scenarios to consider. Your fault. If you'd have just given us 1, then we would have taken that scenario. But sorry, you gave us 2. We were deciding we're no longer considering anymore because he's not even on our team.
Why
so
is
did
it
we
called
really
cash considerations?
Because you have to consider the cash.
Do you, though? You're going to get some money.
Maybe not.
At some point, right?
Maybe not.
Why is it called just some money?
Traded Ryan O'Hearn for some money.
An
How much?
amount to be named later, right? Instead of like a player to be named later, an amount of money to be named.
ATBL.
Yes. Yeah.
ATBNL. ATBNL. Yeah. Instead of PTBNL. Yeah. We've traded him for amount. How much? We'll tell you.
Tell you later.
It's still under consideration. Yes. The amount.
That's how they got there.
I do honestly. Because I feel like the cash considerations is a little bit like a draft pick that can incentivize up around or down around depending on like playing time, like cash considerations depending on what he does and where he plays. And then if you DFA him like a day later, does that change anything? Oh, sorry, we didn't even have him around. Were there cash considerations for the amount of hours he was an Oriole? So no longer. We can maybe bring up Ryan O'Hearn numbers later on this summer.
So what's the thought there? They'll assign him to the minor league roster then if he clears waivers.
I mean, if he does, he can accept a contract to a minor league team. You know, if somebody wants to sign him to a big league contract.
The Royals were a pretty minor league team last year.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. But that's changing now. It's all changing.
Now that O'Hearn's gone.
Yes, that's what it was. They fixed everything. Because I know that when they re-signed him, there were a lot of frustrated people that it was just the same. So when they traded him, then it was a lot of frustrated people because why would you give him that money and then trade him? So, probably the best result was just, why didn't you just trade him before even doing anything? All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. There are some things that are planned for the NFL this weekend. The Bills and others will have different tributes for Damar Hamlin across the NFL during Week 18. The Bills are wearing a number 3 patch on their jersey. The Indianapolis Colts are outlining the 3s on the field in red paint.
Cool. They've offered said all the teams could do that. I don't know who we've seen will and won't, but would imagine that would be you could do that league wide and be pretty cool.
Mick, you the way you understand it, the Raiders have announced that they're going to get the opening kickoff and down it at the 3.
It's the way I want them to just take the opening kickoff down at the 3.
So that would be an interesting tribute to Damar Hamlin. That's really
the
committed.
Chiefs are going to have to sacrifice something in the playoffs. The Raiders should sacrifice field position in one drive.
Have you seen the picture that the Ravens put out about how they host a playoff game?
It's really good.
Ravens plus Chargers plus coin toss equals Ravens home playoff game.
Pretty good. And it's a picture of them at the coin toss.
It's a coin toss with the Bengals.
Do you think they will go to midfield and actually hire a referee to come out there?
Somebody texted in earlier, said, do they meet at a random truck stop like in Friday Night Lights to do the coin toss? They should.
The NFL made the schedule release a TV show.
It's got to be public.
This is going to be a 4-hour special, dude. Coverage will begin at 6 p.m. on NFL Network, and they'll flip that coin at 8:59.
Well, that's why I want there to have this come up, that the Chargers win, the Ravens win, and then we have this nationally televised coin flip special that Zach Taylor and John Harbaugh are at, and they attend, or the owners or GMs, or is it like the draft and draft lottery? You send a representative.
Yes.
Like
Gotta be that. I like that a lot.
Woods and Ray Lewis
That's
are there.
really, really cool. Ray Lewis is going to do the dance before the coin toss, try to get everybody hyped.
I would have gone Ed Reed, but he's now a head coach, so can't go that route. So Ickey Woods, and then what Raven? DeMarcus Robinson? No, he's still on the team. It's got to be a Raven of yesteryear that can go and be the representative for the Ravens at the coin flip.
Remember during COVID when they were gonna go ahead with the bragging rights basketball game, and they had a coin flip special with Illinois' AD and Mizzou's AD at the time, and it was hosted by Andy Katz. It was all via Zoom, and they turned that into like a hour-long deal. And they flipped a coin or whatever, and it was determined that Illinois was going to host, right? Did they play there that year?
Remember that at all.
Yeah.
That was Missouri basketball.
I watched the whole thing.
That was Missouri basketball before Dennis Gates and after Mike Anderson. There's a blind spot about the things that happened, even that crazy 2012 season. Forgot about that one, too. That one didn't exist. So post Mike Anderson, pre-Dennis Gates, I have no idea what you're talking about. Did they play basketball? From my understanding, they canceled every single year.
Was that the year
they canceled the 2013 season because that season didn't have a champion?
Was that the year they started out like really hot and made the playoffs or made the tournament as like an 8 or 9 seed? The year they played OU
from like
would have been 2021 season.
Yeah,
yeah, November 12th, 2020.
I couldn't tell you.
Mizzou wins coin flip will host bragging rights.
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I have no clue. Nope, none at all. Dennis Gates, now I can tell you. Ask me about the 10-minute mark in any random game. I'll tell you all about it. Not anything about Gonzo or Mike Anderson. Or, Kim Anderson. So there you go. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Steve Spagnuolo talked yesterday, and I want to play the clip of the rookies developing this year. They've been doing a lot of different things with rookies. So if you could play the clip from Steve Spagnuolo on the rookies and their development throughout this year, that, obviously they rely a lot upon them heading into the postseason. One more game to play before it's go time.
Yeah, I'm not sure we would have changed anything. I mean, we brought some of them along slowly. Others we didn't. I mean, George got thrown in the fire right away. Trent got thrown in the fire and they got hurt. And then some guys were forced to go in there. But coaching is just developing guys, right? Teaching and developing. And as soon as they get here, that's what we do. And the guys that progress real quickly, they get in there more. The guys that don't, they lag behind. Each one of them kind of went at their own pace.
Justin Reed says there are no rookies. Rookie wall, rookie not, whatever. Not for Trent McDuffie, there shouldn't be, since he didn't play for 7-8 games of the season. But they are in a position, even with all these rookies on the defense, to be able to have the number 1 seed. And we are talking about, in perspective, of 3 losses this year for the Chiefs. That is by a combined 10 points. And I think there are some good elements of this football team, defensively, I should say, that when you go back to 2019 and we talk about how good that defense was, especially late in the year, and how they were a big part of them going and winning some games in the postseason and winning a Super Bowl, I think there are elements of the defense this year that are just as good, if not better, than what we saw in 2019. So the pieces are there for this defense to help win a game, not only just keep him in the game and let number 15 go out and do his thing, but there comes a time where you need those guys to step up and play good defense. And even in the losses, the Colts scored, 20 points? Mm-hmm. Shouldn't be, or 17, whatever it was, 17-14 or 2017. The Colts scoring 20 points, not great, but one of those touchdowns, 7 of that was, 4 yards or whatever it was on the muff punt. They had given up 17 points to the Bills. What was the final with that one? 24-20? With the
24-20 final there, yeah.
24-20. So they gave up 17 points to the Bills with a few minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And they gave up 20 points to the Bengals when they were leading and driving in the fourth quarter with 11 minutes to play. So we could talk about the defense and the sudden change and not getting stops, especially in these games where they were playing lesser opponents. But in games where, Bills and Bengals, teams that if you're going to go to the Super Bowl, you're more than likely, really good chance you're going to have to beat one of them. I think the defense did what you would probably expect them to do. Yeah. And even the AFC Championship game last year, that loss, could they have sacked Joe Burrow? Certainly. Could the offense have done more than 3 points in the second half? Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely so. I think a lot of times, too, though, it's not just, especially against the Chiefs, it's not just limiting points, it's limiting offensive possessions for the other team. I don't know. I feel like the Bengals game, there weren't a whole lot of possessions, and that's what you have to think about going into, to where, like, okay, yeah, the Chiefs didn't give up 3 that drive, but it was also a 7-minute drive, and that just eliminated, that's one Patrick Mahomes possession there.
True.
Maybe a couple because of that time. And so I would like to see the Chiefs defense bow up a lot in some situations. What was the down in 3rd and 15 against the Broncos that they gave up, like the worst third down team in the league, and kept that drive going? Like, you nip that in the bud, right? You get a sack on a possession on first down. If there's a holding penalty, that drive should be over almost every time. And it feels like that is nowhere near the case.
There are 4 possessions in the Bengals game that you remember from the defense that makes it look like the defense was the issue in that game.
The last one.
That's one of them. But the 2 opening drives, they score 14 points, the Bengals do. The drive after the Kelsey fumble was a touchdown. And then they couldn't get the ball back at the end. There's 4 drives. And in 4 drives against the Bengals, 21 points. And then what could have been holding them to a field goal, I don't know. There were some other plays that were made too, because Carlos Dunlap probably had the biggest play of the game until it wasn't the biggest play of the game. So that's points on the board for the Bengals that they could have had if they played that a little bit differently. And then we're saying, well, that's another long drive that took place that they scored. Yes, the defense could obviously play better against the Bengals. They could have played better against the Bills.
But I'm with you in all those games. I mean, this is the Ferrari offense, right? The onus is on them, and in all 3 of those games, I think you point the finger more at the offensive side.
And Butker missed a field goal in both the Bills and Bengals game. Now, we all agree that the Bengals missed field goal really wouldn't have mattered because I don't think the Chiefs were stopping the Bengals. And that goes back to the defense. Goes back to, okay, so the defense did their part, yet you're saying if Harrison Butker kicks the field goal to tie it up, to make it, then the defense wasn't going to stop him to get the ball back anyway. Yeah, I do think that. But I also think the offense didn't have to fumble when they were up 4 points and driving. They also didn't have to start out with their first couple of drives being only 3 points. They didn't have to start out 14-3. So when your team is built around the offense and Patrick Mahomes, that's where the turnovers come in, and you can't lose the game. The defense and special teams cannot lose you the game. They can't. They just have to give you a chance to where the offense can go and win the game. They can't be the reason that defense was awful and special teams had 2 turnovers and they missed a field goal. There almost was nothing the offense could do in that game for them to win, especially against that opponent. They were done in by defense and special teams, and it cost them.
So in the Bengals game, the Chiefs had 8 possessions. That's not a lot.
Usually they have 11 or 12.
Yeah, usually it's double digits.
Yeah.
And then so here are the Bengals drives and how many plays? 11 plays. They had 8 as well. They had 9.
I like that. Well,
one of the Chiefs, which I think is the end of the half, went also. They might have only had 7 really
2 plays,
useful
19
ones.
yards. So really, basically 7 drives with a chance to do something. 11 plays, 9 plays, a 3 and out on the 3rd possession. They needed that for the Chiefs. And then the Bengals went 8 plays, 9 plays, 8 plays, 10 plays, 10 plays.
Yeah, you're right.
Those 4 in the second half were just clock killers. I mean,
you're right. The points are a little skewed.
402, 458, and then the 319 at the end.
Yeah, the points become a little skewed when you talk about the points they scored versus
it's almost
the possessions
like 20,
they had. Yeah.
20 points becomes maybe 30 when you limit.
Yeah, you're right.
When you limit Mahomes to the field.
You're right. So we come out of that game and it's like, the defense obviously could have played better, and they couldn't get off the field either time. They couldn't get the Bengals off the field in
like the
touchdown.
Broncos game. I think the Chiefs had 8 3-and-outs the second half. It felt like
when they were up 27-0. That one, or are you talking about last
one?
Last week?
Last one.
Yeah, but the Chiefs' offense also went through an entire quarter where they picked up 9 yards.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, 8 yards. 9 plays, 8 yards in an entire quarter. That doesn't happen very often. You do that, then, you're probably not advancing in the playoffs. You do that against the Chargers or the Bills/Bengals, probably not going to be playing in Phoenix or at a neutral site.
It's funny.
The championship game.
It's funny, like, before all this happened, I said I would much rather the Chiefs play the Bills than the Broncos in the playoffs. I think the Broncos
and the Bengals probably
Sorry,
the Bengals, not the Broncos.
Sorry.
I'd love for them to play the Broncos in the playoffs.
But I'm with you because those Broncos games are too damn scary.
I don't want to face the Broncos.
Who took them to OT? The Texans. I do not want to see Houston in the playoffs.
Haven't they beat the Broncos their 2 games the same amount they beat the Chargers?
The Broncos aren't going to make the playoffs. So if they're in the playoffs, there's already been some wizardry. So if they make it, they're probably going to win that game.
Great point.
So Bills over Bengals. I would say Bills over Bengals before all this happened. But now I would say Bengals just because if they are playing the Bengals in the championship game, odds are that game is for sure going to be at Arrowhead.
Yeah, I guess it was a 6-point game there in Denver. So
yeah, they beat the Broncos by 9 total points and the Chargers by 6 total points.
Yeah, I mean, just like the
and they
beginning
beat
of
the
the
Raiders by 1 in this game tomorrow.
It's going to be 4 after they win by a field goal.
That really might be
on
it.
Saturday.
Oh, come on.
They're going to beat the AFC West by like 15 points. I guess that's where they're at right now.
They're
They
going to
have
be
to lose.
6-0.
Oh, God.
They're going to be 6-0.
6-0 beat the West by 20 total points over 6 games. I mean, that's on the table.
So they got...
So here's the number of possessions the Chiefs got in the Broncos
15,
game, by the
16,
way.
yeah.
The difference between playing a good team and a bad team.
Okay.
Chiefs got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 possessions against the Broncos.
They're taking the ball back. Not just with turnovers,
That's
but
against a
those 3 and outs.
Bad
and all that.
offense compared to a good offense.
Yeah.
Let's hear Steve Spagnuolo, and this is with Todd Lebo's question about this Chiefs team against divisional opponents, what we just talked about, and that they've got 5 wins by a total of 15 points against the division so far. They've got a 3-point win, a 3-point win, a 1-point win, and a 6-point win, and a 3-point win. Here's Todd Lebo talking to Steve Spagnuolo, asking him questions about finding ways to win these close games.
The last couple of weeks, you guys have played teams that have lost a lot of close games. When you look at them on tape, you probably look at the talent and say, I don't know why they don't have a better record.
Yeah.
You guys win all these close games. Is there something you could put your finger on why you guys win these games at the end or hold on in some of these teams?
Patrick Mahomes. I can't. I think every game is differently. I just know that when the games get close, I talk to the defense about this all the time. That's going to fall on us. That means we're ahead, and it falls on the defense to close it out. We've been able to do it in some games, and I think there's some along the way that we didn't. And as we get down into what we're getting to, that's going to become really important.
Listen, I think like the end of the Bengals game and maybe the Bills is a lot of people's minds, but the defense comes through. They a lot of times play their best possessions in that final possession of games.
Chris Jones pops the super serum that turned Steve Rogers into Captain America, and then the defense is good all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Bills drives against the Chiefs.
That was a movie reference, Jason.
Thank you. Bills drives against the Chiefs ended with a fumble, a field goal, turnover on downs, a punt. That's the way they started that game. They got 3 points. The Bills did. Problem is the Chiefs countered that by interception, touchdown, punt. And then they score a touchdown to touchdown, turnover on downs, a punt, and then up by 3. They go down and score. Or Chiefs are up by 3. The Bills go down and 12 plays, 76 yards, score a touchdown.
But I think the biggest thing to take away from where this defense is from the last 2 weeks, from that first Spags clip, is we're talking about the defense in October. What we've seen these last 2 games, I think, is a fundamentally different energy, in particular because of how much those rookies have grown since that time. I think you can go back a certain extent. I think at least the Bengals game is still fair to go back to, but it's one of the reasons that I am really curious to see how they handle Devontae Adams tomorrow, because if they can make it 3 games in a row of an aggressive defense that puts you on your heels instead of them being on their heels, that is the best thing you could ask for momentum-wise for the defenses going into the playoffs, which is something we all signed up for when we saw the draft class. It was always, we'll see how many of these guys they can get involved. There will be growing pains, and Trent McDuffie is playing excellent football. George Karlaftis' growth has been palpable. Brian Cook is getting a lot of work. Leo Chanel's getting a little work. When L'Jarius Sneed was out, they had 3 rookie corners on the field at the same time. I didn't cut that clip, I don't think, but Spag says he could not recall a time in his career where that's ever happened. 3 rookies on the field at corner all at the same time. So the youth and growth of this defense, I think it's even more relevant than it would be for a veteran defense that had changed from week 3 to week 18, because these guys are legitimately like learning how to be NFL football players. So I still have like a decent amount of optimism kind of riding off these last couple of weeks.
And the 17 points, some of the 17 of the points that the Denver Broncos scored, the field goal drive, a penalty gave them a first down. The touchdown was a fumbled punt, and then Russell Wilson runs for 16 yards. Again, you can hold them to a field goal, but that's a 16-yard drive. And then their other touchdown drive was 3rd and 6 pass interference, 4th and 7 interception, but was illegal use of hands. Now, going back and watching that play with illegal use of hands, I'm assuming you're going to have some frustrated coaches, and it's also a rookie, because when Josh Williams goes to jam Cortland Sutton, there's no reason for his hands to be that high.
Just misses a spot.
It was not one of those to where he's going to his chest and Sutton hits his hand and then his arm goes up. His arm was going right at the helmet. I mean, they were way too high for him to be jamming Cortland Sutton right there. That's just technique. Yep. And that's a rookie that, continually having experience that hopefully the next time he's at, because
or he's gotten away with that a lot,
Could be.
A lot of times we don't show the ISO looks of those altercations when there's not a flag.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it was Matt on post-game. I'm trying to remember when it would have been or who else it could have been that said it, but specifically noted that, that's how they teach these corners to play in this defense.
Well, I don't think they teach them to go
He just shot high.
Yeah.
No, I know. That's why I said the first thing is he missed his spot.
Yeah.
That is the way that they attack you at the line of scrimmage, and if you hit high, you're going to get flagged for it. But like you said, it's a rookie.
They teach him at every position to take everything up to the edge, right?
Oh, yeah.
The exact edge, and a lot of times there's gray area there, but the line between a penalty and a non-penalty, and a lot of times they step over it, and a lot of times they'll step over it and not get called, right? And so
against the Seahawks, Juan Thornhill had an interception that was taken off the board because Sneed. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is his 3rd year, and he had illegal hands to the face of DK Metcalf. It happens when you're going to be that aggressive, and guys are that quick and shifty, and also when they're going out of their breaks, they might be going and bending their knees and dropping their hips.
Frustration too. I mean, those guys are jawing back and forth. Some guys get overheated. You give a guy a little pop. Yeah. So that exists too.
Speaking of Jalen Watson and Josh Williams, Steve Spagnuolo weighing in on the rotation of those guys throughout the year, because whether that was by design or by circumstance, here is Steve Spagnuolo talking about that rotation that has been with 2 of those rookie cornerbacks there throughout the year.
Yeah, we've tried to play them both, throughout the season, because we knew when we got to this point we might need them both. The minute there's an injury, and LJ had the injury, you got to put them both in there. So, listen, Dave and Donald and the players themselves are working all the time on getting better. And one thing about working with both Josh and Jalen is they want to be coached, right? They want to get better. They want to do good. They don't want to let the team down. The position they play is a challenging one. When they make a mistake, everybody knows about it. Not always true in the interior line when they make a mistake. So we're just going to keep grinding away with those guys, and we need them. We're going to need them.
It's a great point on, if you're Derrick Nottie in the game and a mistake is made on something, it's not seen as easily as the cornerback that makes a mistake and is then burned, or is a miscommunication in the secondary, or your hand was a little too high and above the shoulder and it hits the helmet, or you're diving for the football and your right hand is reaching out and your left hand is touching the hip of the receiver and they call a pass interference because you had your hand on him there, that those mistakes are highlighted and seen more than Derrick Nottie took a false step. Mm-hmm. And that's why he was washed out of that particular hole, that then Nick Bolton or Willie Gay came in and made a tackle 4 yards down the field. But you're like, yeah, that could have been a stop. That could have been a no gain. But he took a false step and he's washed out. And therefore, let's focus on that. That is true. And especially when you're a rookie, you don't have that experience there. But, I mean, it's going to be about really Mahomes, the offense, how perfect isn't the right word, but how efficient they can be. And protecting the football and not turning it over. And then, of course, special teams. Because this team is number 1 in the NFL in offense with the issues in the kicking game and the turnovers that they've had. Mm-hmm. It's a big if. But, if I mean, you don't
both
turn the ball
those
over.
categories get just 25% better, right? How much
You go
more?
through a game where you don't miss a kick and turn the ball
You have
over.
one more win, definitely, probably.
Yeah.
Definitely, probably. I just said it.
Definitely,
of the
that's
Colts.
like 75%.
But remember, I mean, this is a defense that stepped up and got a stop against the Raiders at the end of the game last time out. Now, I mean, two receivers running into each other.
You know what?
But
They forced
were on
that.
the field. Absolutely.
And Adams couldn't get his second foot down. But you know what? It happens. All right, you got to go out and play the game. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will. They got a stop against the Chargers, up 3 when Herbert tried to then run up the middle, and Chris Jones sniffed that out and sacked him. And then the next play was Chris Jones on the road there in L.A.
Oh, then
so they up by 3. They got to stop there.
Then a camera guy got a stop on Adams after the game.
Well, that was Raiders earlier this year.
Raiders, yeah.
No, actually, he didn't get a stop. Adams went right through him.
Well,
it's a broken tackle.
He held him up.
Yeah. It was a broken tackle, though. I mean,
if he had better teammates, they could have gang tackled him after that.
That's true. It's just another missed tackle by the Chiefs defense. That's the problem, is too many missed tackles on Devontae Adams. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. You're in the zone with Jason Anderson.
It's kind of like last night, the Matt Moore, not Matt Mahore, which would be a different quarterback.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
College basketball this weekend. Mizzou, the only home team of the local schools, against Vandy. Sellout already, as a couple of days ago, 11 o'clock in the morning on CBS. And then some road trips for KU and K-State. K-State heading to Baylor, the return for Jerome Tang down to Waco, and then KU to West Virginia. Interesting matchups because I would not have guessed that the January 7th games with KU and K-State would be playing against winless teams in the Big 12. That West Virginia would be 0-2 and Baylor would be 0-2. But that's the deal. That KU is heading over to probably a pissed off West Virginia team that thinks that they had a pretty decent chance of being 2-0, and a Baylor team for K-State.
Is that West Virginia team never not pissed off?
Well, they just
that's a good point, man.
It's just in life. Just in general.
Pissed off we're still in this league in the Central Time Zone.
Pissed off that they're out of batteries to throw, that they've already throw all the batteries at the players. Like, there's a lot of things to be pissed off of. Pissed off that it takes you an hour and a half just to get near Morgantown. Pissed off that you're in Morgantown.
Took me 2 hours to drive a mile and a half in Morgantown one night.
I can see that.
Snowy.
Were you riding driving a horse and buggy?
No, driving a real car with Greg Gurley.
Well,
Everybody was late to the game, including the anthem singer. So everybody just sang. Everybody knows the words for the most part.
Was there like 8 inches of snow or something?
It was a snowstorm. I don't remember how many. And then, like, I say late to the game. We were late to our duties. We had to be there like at least an hour beforehand. We had pregame shows back in the day, and of course Gurley had stuff, but I don't think anybody missed him. We got there, I think, about 15 minutes before the game.
Yeah. Nobody missed Gurley.
Didn't miss Gurley.
He's not here, so I get to spread my wings a little bit. I want a solo game. I get a solo game. Rock, chalk him up. He's not here.
It's weird that you're doing an impression of yourself.
Isn't it, though? I've never done play-by-play for
so
that team.
meta.
I have never done.
I think Bob Davis was the play-by-play guy then.
Okay.
He got it! Swish! Swish! That's how to Thomas, he got it!
Do you have a max? Do you have a max impression?
I don't have anybody's impression.
Okay.
I'm not like you. You're good at them.
I didn't know if we needed to continue to go back in the impression stages. So Baylor losing at Iowa State and then home to TCU in what was an awesome game with TCU on Wednesday night, and losing that game at home. And West Virginia in their now road trips since they're in the Big 12 that you play 2 games near each other. So go into Manhattan and then go into Stillwater and the quick little trips.
Are they doing that now?
I mean, why not?
But are they doing it? No, you're saying why
I would.
not? I know you would.
I would. I mean,
it kind of seems like that because KU
with today's flights,
KU and K-State both have road games this week. Although I think they're coming back
in February. A Saturday, Monday trip for West Virginia. Saturday they play in Austin. Monday they play in Waco. You think they go back to West Virginia or just stay there? They probably stay there.
Probably stay there.
Probably stay there in Texas. That's back-to-back games, 2 games in 3 days.
But that's not every week they're doing something like that.
And then a Saturday, Monday for West Virginia.
There's lots of leagues that do that. Usually it's a Thursday, Saturday type deal.
Yeah.
Like the Pac-12 and then the Summit League that Kansas City Roos are in now. They do that Thursday, Saturday.
February 25th and 27th, another Saturday, Monday for West Virginia. They head to Kansas and then head to Iowa State. It's probably one where you leave Kansas, go right to Ames.
The Big 12 map's just kind of weird to where I don't know if
it's not, but it's not going to get more weird.
Partner.
But it's not going to get more weird. So in a couple of years, it's going to be fine.
It is going to get.
It's going to be perfectly fine.
Weirder, in fact.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. K-State at Baylor is a really fascinating one to me because if they find a way to win that game, then you're talking about a K-State team that's 14-1, it's 3-0, winning at Texas, winning at Baylor, beating West Virginia in overtime at home. that you start to really discuss the seed line for K-State. Like, legitimately discuss, because I think Mike DeCourcy said on
two of those wins are on the road.
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, I guess it would have been Wednesday because they played Tuesday night. So it said that, with K-State's win against Texas, he's like, I've got them up to like a 5 seed. Okay, go win at Baylor. Now you're talking about does K-State, can they get a 3? Are they winning the Big 12? Is that K-State?
You keep them on that pace. I have them as a 1 seed, Jason. If they end up at 28-2, and then a few more.
I
after
don't
that.
think they're going to end up as 28-2. Call me crazy there,
But we would have said.
crazy.
I don't think we definitely wouldn't have said they were going to start 14-1.
No,
but
no chance.
I hear you. The next 15 games are going to be tougher than the previous 15.
That's exactly right. I'm assuming that is the case, but Ken Pom has it as a 5-point loss to Baylor this weekend.
What do you have him at Texas?
I didn't
Gotta be
see
worse
it.
than that.
It
right?
had to have been worse than that. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he had it as a 13-point win, 116-103. I don't think he had that one in
Because you saw the West Virginia game, you're like, okay, they got fortunate to come away with one.
Right.
Okay, they're kind of maybe coming back to the pack against probably what's going to be a middle of the road Big 12 team.
Mm-hmm.
They eke out a win at home, and then they just go put their foots on the throats of Texans in Austin.
And sometimes it matters when you play somebody, because if K-State played Butler tomorrow, I think they can win by 15 or 20. But they played them earlier this year and they lost. And they weren't playing their best basketball. But play Butler tomorrow, I think they take care of business. Didn't happen, though. So sometimes it matters like how you're playing and when you're playing. And right now, K-State's playing phenomenal basketball, and Baylor's got 2 losses to start Big 12 play, which isn't necessarily expected, but it's reality in the Big 12 because there are going to be some games, which is why it was so big for K-State and KU to get the wins on the road, is because in this conference, you're going to lose some games that you probably don't think you should lose. But when you go on the road and steal one, because I feel like that's kind of stealing one when Texas Tech has won 29 straight games at home. And Kansas goes there and wins. It's kind of stealing one.
You lost there last year as a national champion. You
right.
lost there.
And then you go to Texas and give up 103 points. You don't expect to win by double digits there. So I kind of feel like, you stole one if you're looking at just predicting what the records and what the schedule is going to look like. You're able to do that. Now you're talking about, the rest of the way in a tough – because this conference is going to be fascinating in late February. Late February, the jockeying for position – and where teams are going to be, there is just going to be a mass of teams from like 1 to 7.
They're not going to get 10 in, which is the talk right now, because just you always beat each other up, and then there's going to be a couple guys that just stay down, right? There's going to be a couple teams, probably Oklahoma State, maybe who else would it be? An Iowa State or a TCU or something like that.
Iowa State's ranked.
Yeah.
You're talking about like the lowest team on Ken Pom.
It's 37.
Is 37 in Oklahoma. They're 95. They're 9-5. And Iowa State a couple of days ago, they were the lowest team at Ken Pom, sitting at 40. But they're ranked. They're one of the ranked teams in the Big 12. So it's a fascinating league this year, man. It is dynamite, and there is no. What makes it tough is like there's no night where you're going, all right, we chalk that one up. Got to win there. That's a check mark. Move on. Then what's that over there? Like every single night, you're in a dogfight.
Yeah, there's
whoever
no
wins
like
this one is.
Yeah,
it's going to be one of the more
home games.
It's going to be one of the more impressive.
KU. Yeah, look at KU at home against maybe the worst team in the league. Got lucky to win. Down 15 at half. Had to survive a non-call at the end.
What?
Yeah, I know. And then
I haven't seen KU play 2 conference games where there was.
Then going down to the wire at Texas Tech, where I don't think there should have been a call on Jalen Wilson on that last possession. There should have been a call on the dunk.
But there also should have been called on Bobby Pettiford, who bodied the dribbler into the ground.
I thought he tripped.
No, he bodied him into the ground. Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Fran Fraschilla said he tripped, but Fran Fraschilla also said, Bill Self's going to foul here, and he didn't. Yeah, he did trip over the body of Bobby Pettiford. But KJ Adams should have been called for a foul, too. That should have been an and one.
No, Bacho or whatever his name is.
I mean, should have been got the foul.
Dunk.
Is what I meant. Yeah, KJ Adams should have got the foul, and that
they
should have been
were talking more
one.
about the
Jalen Wilson
maybe pulling him down,
and I think that should have been a foul. But but this is something that goes on in college basketball all the time. I mean, so it's not just a KU thing or a TCU or a Texas Tech thing. That the officials oftentimes are scared of making a call and then it being wrong, or that was ticky-tack and this whole game comes down to that. And I completely disagree with let the players decide the game. They did. They decided the game by fouling.
Yes, agreed.
They decided the game. They fouled. So they did impact the game. It's just you aren't then allowed. And if you do say, well, you can't make that call in that situation, well, then how many seconds left in the game are you allowed to make that call?
Yeah.
Is it under 10 seconds? Is it 25 seconds? And if you're not allowed to make that call under 10 seconds, then wouldn't you then want to have the ball second to last? So therefore you're on offense and they will make that call so that then you get to play defense where they won't make that call. Like, just how about this? 40-minute game, officiate it the same throughout. But also, calls are going to get missed in a 40-minute game. Some are going to get made, some are going to get missed. It's just in the final 20 seconds, those are highlighted more than anything. And so we get into these conversations. But
I think it's adorable that you guys still have the capacity to be surprised or disappointed by college basketball referees. I let that go years ago, and it's really helped my mental health because it's the only way that I can watch the last 2 minutes of a basketball game is just be like, we got 3 teams out here all just trying to do what they got to do because the Stripes are one of them.
Last 2 minutes of college basketball game is brutal.
I've already forgotten. I think it was one of the KU games where there was just actually like 3 consecutive possessions late in a game. It was such a breath of fresh air. It was basketball with some momentum. It was unreal. I hadn't seen anything like that before. It's been years.
In the NCAA tournament, Tennessee played. I think it was. Oh, it wasn't Maryland. It was. It doesn't matter. Tennessee played somebody. And it was when Conzo Martin was the head coach at Tennessee, so it was a while ago. And the final 45 seconds took 23 minutes.
I don't have the patience anymore.
Because I remember the next day just talking about it like, this is unbelievable. 43 seconds was 25 minutes of actual game time with the timeouts, the stops, the free throws, the reviews, the everything. It's 43 seconds.
The miracle in 2008 in the championship game was not Chalmers' shot. It was that Memphis missed the free throw. KU got the rebound, came down, made the shot. Memphis took it out and missed a shot without interruption.
But it's not a miracle for Cal late in the game to panic and not know what to do. That is not a miracle because that's typical for what Cal does. I think John Calipari is a really good coach. I think late in games he panics a lot and is like just looking around like, what do I do? I don't know. Stay in, Rudy. Stay in. What do I do? I think that's Cal often. That's why he's sweating so much and he's got the hair slicked back.
Rudy's offsides. Speaking of referees, college football, give me a break.
Yeah, but if we run the play, I mean, Divine, to hell with Divine. If we don't score, Rudy can't play. So to hell with Cal. If we don't foul, Mario Chalmers going to hit the shot. We got to run the play and not foul, guys.
It's another movie.
Rudy, you said? I've never heard of it.
We got to foul Collins. If we don't foul Collins, Chalmers hits the shot.
I actually
heard of it. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it because at this point, actually, I declared to Rudy Salazar at one point that on his behalf, I would never watch that movie because his least favorite thing in the world was people chanting down the halls at him, Rudy, Rudy, Rudy.
I told him that I would never watch the movie Salazar.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Very disappointed. I wanted to play like 30 more cuts.
Should have
Are
broke.
you hiding them somewhere?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Friday edition. Why don't we go ahead and get to cuts, shall we? Should we just go ahead and cut it up?
There's 5.
Let's cut it. All right.
Are we not doing a prediction first?
I mean,
What do you think this is, Beards? A Friday?
look, it doesn't feel like a Friday for some reason. I don't know. You want to do predictions, Beards? You really? All right.
All right,
Beards,
Beards, since
you're demanding,
since you want to do predictions
you're demanding
so
a
much,
prediction.
I was expecting us to do a prediction.
You're demanding a prediction. What do you think
you
happens,
expect
Beards?
us to do a prediction because that's what we do at this time on Fridays?
I mean, kind of.
That makes sense, I guess.
Chiefs win.
What's
What do you
your
think the score is going to be?
Probably like 3-2.
All right, thank God we
that'd
got
be
that one in.
incredible.
Mick, what are you thinking?
The Chiefs are going to win 27-24.
27-24. Josh?
You see this blue ink right there that I wrote down about 3 hours ago?
24.
Nice.
Look at us.
Great minds.
I'm going to go 34-17.
That's a lot of points.
34-17.
Pie in the sky. Give me a break.
You
not
got,
gonna give you a break.
did you?
I'll give you a break
You
in
were
4
our
minutes.
predictor this week, right? For
I
the
was.
video, you had the Chiefs covering.
And
What is your
under.
problem? Do you remember stuff?
I went opposite
You have the
theory.
Chiefs covering
Josh,
and under.
I went opposite theory.
That's fair. You're
I
fading
went
yourself.
opposite theory.
You're fading the logic.
I went opposite of myself since
What's
I've been
the-
missing in
what's the
everything.
Fair enough.
over-under?
Fair enough.
52.5. So I went under, and I'm like, well, the Chiefs aren't going to cover, but I'm picking this week, so I'm going to take the Chiefs to cover because I don't think they're going to cover. Opposite theory. Let's cut it
I
up
support
here.
it.
My wife has, her likes and dislikes.
Sure.
Likes, Girl Scout cookies. Dislikes, me.
You.
Oh, great minds. There you go. Little Red Bull
yeah.
for you. Little Red Bull.
Rip it and grip it, baby.
Still feeling that.
Are you?
It was like a 12-ouncer.
That was a lot of Red Bull, man.
Drake brought a
And
big can.
Team that had to play an extra game with a suspect kicking game or kissing game.
Just tweak.
Yeah, not twerk.
Could be a little bit of both.
Could be a little bit of both.
Josh looked
lonely.
Yeah,
That's
that
been
makes sense.
true for
He
a long
looked
time.
lonely, and I had nothing better to do.
Wanted
Boy.
to get out of the house.
That Beards, can you clip that for cuts so I can have that just as a reminder of how my high school experience went?
You didn't get the 2 cuts that I put in there?
No.
Oh, I put in 2 cuts.
I've got
Where'd
one in
you
there
put
also.
them?
And
You put them in the
Brisco put in
22?
2?
I put one in on Monday.
I don't know.
I told you about that one.
I have no idea.
You put them in the 22.
Mine's in the
folder,
base folder.
23 folder.
Mine's from
I don't
Jamal
know.
Williams.
Dustin, before you go, can you talk about your box outs in the locker room?
It was tough. You look on Wikipedia, you see All-State basketball. I don't think anybody wanted to guard me. What you're talking about is typically when I would get totally ready for practice, and they would see me wide open under the basket. They would just pass me the ball. I don't think it had anything to do with that I was naked. Nobody wanted to guard me.
Wow.
I think it was more like, dude, that guy can ball, and we don't want to.
In more ways than one, apparently.
Yeah, that guy can ball. Week after week, Dustin Colquitt ball handling.
It's all about it. It's how do you spin that ball? I don't know. That'll do it.
Family Leisure's inventory liquidation sale is